many people today could expect.
Vladimir Kara-Murza, I wish we had more time, but we don't. Thank you very much indeed for joining me from Washington.
Thank you so much.
That was Hard Talk. I'm Saroja Coelho. You're listening to CBC Radio 1. Have a great day.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. I am Marcy Marcusa, and this is Information Radio. We're live downtown in our CBC studios, and we're with you until 8:37 this morning here on the show. I will say good morning to the team, and then we're going to get right into what is happening with the weather today, because it's a big story that's going to be developing. So it's calm this morning, it's warm, but there's a lot coming. The return of Corey Funk today. Corey is directing the show. Good morning, Corey, and good morning to Abby Adeyemi, who will be covering our forecasts, of course, and is our technical producer. Good morning to Kevin Nipatebo, who is also in the control room with Abby, saying hello on YouTube to us. Kevin's our YouTube producer. So you might be listening to CBC on 89.3 FM, as mentioned, 990 AM on the app or on YouTube, watching us. We are watching what's going on with this weather system. So we have snow and we have a blizzard warning in effect for Winnipeg in the south. So the winds are going to pick up. And we're told this all could drastically change quickly. And I'm saying that because when you walk out this morning, you're probably going to think, what? It's really nice out. So we'll certainly stay on top of it. Let's go to Heather Wells in our news center this morning. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning. Yes, and that blizzard is expected to start barreling down on southern Manitoba this morning. We're going to see snow develop, and then the wind is going to pick up. It's going to be north with gusts as high as 90 kilometers an hour, and that is going to create poor visibility, especially in open areas. The blizzard will taper off later this afternoon or possibly this evening. So a big area of southern Manitoba under that blizzard warning this morning. An 11-year-old Palestinian boy will receive life-changing medical care in Manitoba. The boy, who has a genetic condition, and his mother arrived in Winnipeg yesterday. Doctors Without Borders and federal officials got the pair out of Egypt after they fled Gaza. We'll hear more about that in our next local news coming up at 6:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
This morning, we are continuing to remember David Lynch. The iconic filmmaker passed away. George Tolles is a distinguished professor at U of M. He might have taught you a course on filmmaking. He has a whole unit on David Lynch, so he's going to be joining us a little bit later. In addition to that interview, this morning we're going to talk about TikTok. Its future remains in the balance as it faces that ban in the U.S. So we'll have some analysis of that coming up in the first hour of the show. Right now, though, it is time for World Report on CBC.
Today on Q with Tom Power.
Pamela Anderson has been in the public eye for decades. In her memoir and documentary a couple of years back, Pamela finally took control of her own story. Now she's entering a new chapter as an artist, playing the lead in the new film, The Last Showgirl. Pamela will tell you what that means to her.
You guys, our show is legendary.
That's coming up on Q, followed by Commotion with Elamine Abdelmahmoud on CBC Radio 1, the CBC Listen app, and everywhere you get your podcasts.
Good morning, I'm John Northcott. Disagreements over the Israel-Hamas ceasefire are now hammered out. So it is again time for the two sides to confer amongst themselves. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is now convening his security cabinet so they can ratify the agreement. The CBC's Chris Brown has more.
I'm outside of Israel's cabinet offices in Jerusalem, where ministers are expected to approve the ceasefire deal hammered out the other day in Qatar. All around me, there is a vigil that supporters and families of the hostages have set up for over 460 some odd days, with faces and calls for them to come home, something they hope will now happen imminently, but not quite yet. It would seem there is one more step to go through, possibly another cabinet meeting on Saturday. Although in a release, Benjamin Netanyahu's office said that the Sunday timetable for releasing hostages and Palestinian detainees and the ceasefire in Gaza still is set. Overnight, the Prime Minister's office also released a statement saying that Israel has signed the negotiation documents in Qatar after what was a day of last-minute glitches. Israel blamed Hamas, but internal politics are also clearly an issue. Far-right Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir had said that he will quit the coalition unless Israel drops this ceasefire and continues attacking Gaza. Another far-right minister, though, appears to be staying, which may hold Netanyahu's governing coalition together, at least for now. One poll out today is suggesting a solid majority of Israelis are in favor of this ceasefire. Chris Brown, CBC News, Jerusalem.
U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, meanwhile, is urging the two sides to implement the deal quickly.
Frankly, it better be done before I take the oath of office. You know, we shook hands and we signed certain documents, but it better be done.
Trump was speaking in a podcast interview, once again taking credit for the deal, saying negotiations would not have succeeded without pressure from his team, and adding outgoing President Joe Biden didn't do anything to secure the hostages' freedom. Washington, meanwhile, is bustling with preparations. In just 3 days, Trump will be sworn in as U.S. president for the second time. The ceremony on the steps of the Capitol building will mark one of the most astounding political comebacks in American history. CBC's Chris Reyes is following it all. Chris, give us a preview of the day.
So, John, hundreds of thousands of people are expected to be there on Monday, both in support and some protesting against the president-elect. Donald Trump will be sworn in sometime around noon by Chief Justice John Roberts. Singer-songwriter Carrie Underwood will be performing. The outgoing administration will be there, President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. Now, worth noting, John, that Trump did not attend Biden's inauguration in 2020. Presidents George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, and Barack Obama will be in attendance. But beyond that, the guest list is quite varied, and it includes tech CEOs Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, and the head of TikTok. And then a real notable absence. Former First Lady Michelle Obama will not attend. She issued a statement this week, gave no reason for declining the invitation. And of course, the key event on Inauguration Day is the presidential address. Trump's team has said he will be focused on delivering a message of unity.
Chris, Trump is expected to hit the ground running by signing a record number of executive orders. What should we expect?
So Trump made a lot of day one promises during his campaign, John, including mass deportation, tariffs against Canada and Mexico, and undoing environmental regulations put in place by the Biden administration. Also possibly issuing pardons for those jailed for storming the Capitol on January 6. Now, Trump could sign as many as 100 executive orders on Inauguration Day. That would be, as you said, a record number. Just for context, Biden signed 17 on his first day. Now, an executive order would take effect immediately, but enforcement could take some time. Some in Trump's circle, John, have described this as a shock and awe plan from a president who is determined with this final term to make good on some of his biggest, boldest, and most controversial campaign promises.
CBC's Chris Reyes in New York. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Those tariffs Chris mentioned are so dangerous to Canada's economy, they've prompted an all-hands-on-deck response from federal politicians. Some have put their Liberal leadership ambitions on hold. Others say it's their reason to enter the race. Janice McGregor is in our parliamentary bureau. So, Janice, how is this threat affecting the Liberal leadership race and, for that matter, the opposition's positioning for the next federal election?
Well, as an example, Mark Carney, now campaigning for the Liberal leadership race, made a stop in Richmond, BC last night. Confronting this threat from U.S. President Donald Trump is now part of his pitch.
We face a serious threat from the 47th President of the United States. And it's true, it is a very serious economic threat. We can't control what Donald Trump will do.
And
we can control what we will do.
And looking even farther ahead to the next election, we saw pivoting from Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre yesterday, too. As it becomes more clear that the next Liberal leader, whoever that is, isn't likely to stick with the current carbon tax, we see now from the Conservatives their pitch broadening to being about axing taxes more generally to ease the burden on Canadians. And although Poilievre's made some cautious remarks in interviews agreeing that retaliation might be needed in a limited form, his Canada First messaging yesterday did not have the same fiery commitment to fighting back with counter tariffs that we've seen from others. Tariffs, after all, are a form of taxes. Governments don't pay them, businesses and consumers do, and that's why people worry about inflation.
Janice McGregor in Ottawa. Thanks, Janice.
You're welcome.
to Los Angeles, where officials are reporting significant progress in containing 2 major fires. Strong winds have died down, giving firefighters a chance to beat back the flames. The Palisades and Eaton wildfires have killed 27 people and destroyed more than 12,000 structures. Thousands are anxiously awaiting to return to the homes that still stand, but as Mike Crawley reports, they still need to contend with a new set of health concerns.
Wearing full-body protective gear, members of a cleaning crew work on a house in Pasadena.
A lot of people calling for the same thing. Over 20 jobs right now.
The huge scale of the Los Angeles fires means neighborhoods that were not directly damaged are seeing the effects.
Big, white, chunky pieces of ash.
Kate Gammon lives in Santa Monica. Her street was not under an evacuation order, but she and her family left home for 4 days as a precaution.
There's a rain of ash every day. It's not just wood, it's the metals and the plastics and the oils in people's homes.
Experts say urban wildfires that destroy buildings produce a wider range of toxins than forest fires. Colleen Reed, a professor at the University of Colorado, studied the health after effects of a fire that destroyed 1,000 buildings in Boulder 3 years ago.
Headache, dry cough, itchy, watery eyes.
Her research found that half the people who lived nearby were still experiencing symptoms 6 months later.
People who lived closer to more burned structures were more likely to report headaches and a strange taste in their mouth.
Reed says returnees in LA should wear masks indoors, open all their windows to let out noxious gases, and clean everything.
Those gases will come through from the smoke, so they'll absorb into carpets and rugs and sofas, but also drywall is porous.
LA fire officials say they are working to ensure that homes will be safe to return to once the evacuation orders are lifted. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
Overseas, former Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan is facing another jail term for corruption. He was sentenced to an additional 14 years today. His wife was sentenced to 7 years. The couple is accused of accepting gifts in exchange for laundered money when Khan was in power. Khan's sister, Alima Kanun.
This is a fake case. It's a politically motivated case. Everybody in Pakistan knows it. This will go into High Court and most probably get squashed because it is so ridiculous.
Imran Khan has been in jail since 2023 for other corruption convictions. He has long denied guilt, calling the accusations politically motivated. And finally, lawyers for the late Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny are behind bars this morning. 3 men stand in the defendant's cage, listening as the judge reads her verdict during the closed-door trial. They were found guilty of belonging to an extremist group. Their sentences range between 3.5 years to 5.5 years. Navalny was a fierce critic of President Vladimir Putin. He died suddenly in an Arctic penal colony a year ago. Well, that is the latest national and international news from World Report. Remember, if you're looking for tools to talk about the day's big stories with the little people in your life, check out cbckidsnews.ca. That's cbckidsnews.ca. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
Well, that news this morning about Navalny's lawyers will be interesting in the context of a story we have coming up on Information Radio. I'm Marcy Marcuso. You are with CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and on YouTube. That story is about Russian President Vladimir Putin, who's now been in power for more than a quarter century. CBC has put together a 2-hour feature documentary all about his rise to power. We're going to hear from the producer this hour. In addition, we're going to hear more about how the family has brought a family from Gaza to Manitoba, and specifically for healthcare of one young boy. So stay tuned for all of that. And we'll talk about the future of TikTok in the face of the U.S. ban. Weather is the big story here in Manitoba, though, and it's mostly for what's coming as we start with a pretty calm day. Stay with us. So in preparation for what we're about to hear from Heather and Abby about the weather here, I just want to mention that rural buses for the Brandon School Division already, they've called it, knowing what's going to be coming. So buses will not operate outside the city of Brandon today for the entire day for the Brandon School Division. Also, Alexander O'Kelly and Spring Valley schools are closed. All other schools are open. Buses are going to run within the city of Brandon, but you need to exercise caution if you're heading out. And Heather's here to talk a little bit about why, and Abby will elaborate. Hi, Heather.
Good morning. Yeah, get set to get blown around. A blizzard warning blankets much of southern Manitoba this morning. Winnipeg, the Red River and Pembina Valleys, the Interlake, the east side of the Manitoba Escarpment, all are covered by this blizzard warning. And what it starts with this morning is some snow, and then north winds pick up, gusting as high as 90, creating poor visibility, especially in open areas. The blizzard will then taper off late this afternoon or this evening, so it's going to be with us all day. Some people in Point Douglas say the province has not explained how they'll be protected from a supervised drug consumption site. The province plans to open the site at 200 Disraeli. A meeting was held yesterday with officials from the province and Aboriginal Health and Wellness. We'll hear from one community member coming up in our next local news at 6:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
Well, Abby's here to tell us what it's like right now in the weather. Hi, Abby.
Hi, Marcy. Yes, it's going to be affecting most parts in the province today. We are also tracking it all the way to Churchill. As Heather mentioned, strong winds gusting all the way to 90 kilometers. As the snow settles, the whipping winds would be the problems this morning, not the snow coming down. Once that wind begins to push it around, it will be causing poor visibility. Along with that, temperatures will be dropping. We're going to be getting to like minus 30. That's what it's going to be feeling like when we get into the afternoon. But it would improve as we get later in the day, probably late afternoon or early evening. It should improve. The caution will be for drivers this morning. If you're caught in that, just be prepared. It might hit you suddenly, so take it easy on the highway. Currently, Winnipeg, we are at -2, and it's mostly cloudy outside.
All right. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Yeah, those wind chills feeling like -30. That's what I'm saying. That's this afternoon. So, I mean, this morning with that current temperature of -2, this change is going to be drastic. Okay, let's get into what's happening now in the commute. Corey Funk making his triumphant return.
Hello.
You lazy bum.
I know, right? Well, I'm right back into it now.
You've been sleeping in, but you've been working.
Yes.
But welcome.
Thank you. Good to be back. So it was a calm run in for me this morning, but actually already got a call from Curtis on the commuter line. He's driving west from Austin, heading towards Brandon, near zero visibility right now on Highway number 1 is what he's saying. So the snow is starting to blow, very poor conditions. So it's not surprising what we're hearing from Brandon School Division right now. Also, just a reminder, if up north, Highway 10 from the PA to Highway 60 junction is now closed entirely. So because of poor weather conditions up there, and actually the province even said when they closed it that it's also closed due to the fact that many cars are actually stuck already on that section of highway. That's Highway 10 from the PA to the junction with Highway 60. So you want to avoid driving through there. If you have any other updates for me on those highway conditions as they change very quickly throughout this morning, give me a call on the CBC Commuter line. That number to call, 204-788-3093.
You heard a bit of my perimeteritis there, right? Abby's just reminding me, of course, it's already around Brandon, as Corey just said, Austin, Dauphin. I mean, already the snow has been falling since last night, so you're already in it. It's coming here. 6:15 the time right now. Let's talk about a person that's going to be coming here. Manitoba is welcoming a Palestinian child from Gaza for medical care. Premier Wab Kinew made the announcement late yesterday after the 11-year-old boy and his mother arrived in Winnipeg. The child came here because of his complex medical needs, and he was identified with the help of Doctors Without Borders. A second child, in fact, from Gaza will also be arriving in Manitoba. We don't have any further details on that. Kinew says this is necessary immigration, all of the necessary immigration screenings were completed, and that the application was prioritized.
Why are we helping these two kids from Gaza get health care that they can't get in the region? And we're doing this because at the end of our lives, when we meet our Maker, And the good Creator asks us, you who were given so many opportunities, how did you use my grace to ease the suffering of innocence? I want the good people of Manitoba to be able to continue to say, kind Spirit, perhaps we failed insofar as we could not stop all suffering and we could not stop all war. But we did what we could, and we did not look away. And so to the people of Manitoba, I want you to know that this is who we have always been. We have always been a people who stand up during times of conflict and famine and natural disaster to help the innocent. And we must continue to be that. And notwithstanding the failures over our history to stand up for the rights of Indigenous children, at this time of Every Child Matters, I want us to continue to plant our flag in the notion that our province and our country can be a beacon for human rights around the world. And so it's with the greatest of humility that I'm asking you, my fellow Manitobans, to set out 2 more place settings at the table of our Manitoba family. And to our newest fellow residents here in the province, I want to say that I can only imagine what you've been through over the last little while, but I want you to know that no matter how bad things get, there are always people who are willing to help. And you can call them Manitobans. You can call them Canadians. And we will always support your right to return home when it is safe for you to do so. But if you choose to stay here, then I want you to know that there is a place for you in Manitoba. And then you too can be the helper. You too can be a Manitoban. And you too can be a Canadian.
That was Premier Wab Kinew speaking yesterday. Now, that announcement was made alongside Federal Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship, Mark Miller. Here's some of what he had to say.
Governments are heavy, they're bureaucratic, but the will of one person can make a difference, and Wab Kinew is that person. So he phoned me up and said, how do we make this happen? How do we work with Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders, to get these people here? That involves a lot of diplomatic outreach. It relies on people, trusting people on the ground, and getting the assurances that they can get here in time to help these kids and their families. And today we did that. There are many more that are suffering, thousands and thousands more. The ceasefire is something that, as tenuous as it seems, is something that is very positive. I think we can be quite happy that perhaps there is a light at the end of things. But today is about these individuals that the Premier has stepped up and his team has stepped up to say, we're going to stand behind these folks, we're going to bring them to Manitoba, hopefully going to get them better, and they're welcome here, or whenever they decide to return, they can go back. This is about people working together. So simply wanted to thank the province of Manitoba for working with us, encourage other provinces to do the same, because as Premier Kinew said, at the end of the day, this is about what you say when you meet your maker, and I think we all owe it to ourselves to take a look at what we are doing as a government, always have a gut check, and to make sure that we're doing the right thing. So thank you very much.
Federal Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, Mark Miller. Now, the child is the first of 2 children, as mentioned, from Gaza that will be hosted by our province for medical care. And if you want to read more about this, you can go to our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba. It is now 6:20 today in Manitoba. We are watching a system that is moving in and already affecting Western Manitoba with a visibility around Brandon near zero on the highways. We got a call around between Austin and Brandon. School cancellations, the list has just grown. Heather passed this to me just minutes ago. So now all schools are closed in Lord Selkirk School Division. No buses running. Staff not expected to report to their place of work. Rolling River School Division is all closed today. Fort LaBosse School Division, no buses are running. All schools are closed. And Brandon School Division, as we mentioned, no rural buses are running. Alexander, O'Kelly, and Spring Valley schools are closed. That list is only going to go through the morning as this system continues to wreak havoc here in the province. So be careful. Check out everything before you head out if you have to head out. Next on the show, one of the world's most powerful and consequential leaders just marked a quarter of a century in power. Russian President Vladimir Putin. He's entering year 26, and CBC put together a documentary about him and his rise to power. It is a 2-hour feature. It's called Putin's Journey. Reporter Terence McKenna and producer Alex Sprinston have a long history of reporting on Russia for CBC television, and their documentary is available now on YouTube. It airs tonight on CBC Gem. But Alex Sprinston spoke to me about it from our CBC studio in Toronto.
Morning, Marcy.
So this documentary really explores how Vladimir Putin grew up in poverty and then wanted to join the KGB secret police from a young age. How did that KGB mindset, in your view, inform his political career?
Well, I think he had that mindset to begin with. I think that's partly why he wanted to be a KGB agent. He tells a story in the doc about how, as a child, as a thug, self-admittedly, he would chase after rats, and the rats would then chase after him, and after feeling cornered. And this has been used as a kind of metaphor about Putin himself. Now, he became important when he joined Boris Yeltsin's government in the late 1990s. Yeltsin made him the FSB, which was the replacement for the KGB minister. And at that time, he had a very specific problem. His attorney general, his prosecutor general, was investigating him and his family for corruption. And Yeltsin wanted this to go away, and he asked Putin to see if he could do something. Putin said yes, and he came up with a scheme which involved a honey trap operation where the prosecutor general was lured to a hotel with 2 prostitutes, and they were filmed from different angles. They showed the tape to the prosecutor general, and he was politely asked to resign, which he did, and then started resisting publicly. At that point, Putin delivered the coup de grace by delivering this graphic tape to a national TV network, and they aired it in prime time, and you can imagine what happened after that. Now, when Putin himself became president, he started using psychological warfare against foreign leaders. As many people in our doc say, he has a tendency, a need to intimidate, to humiliate. And one of the victims was Angela Merkel, who was German chancellor at the time. So about 15 years ago, they had a meeting. Putin prepared for it. He knew all the weaknesses. He discovered that Merkel was afraid of dogs. So he brought a very large Labrador, his own, to the meeting, to the photo op. This is how he acted. Former French President François Hollande told us that in meetings with him, and one in particular, Putin could be good cop, bad cop in the same space of time, 15, 20 minutes. He drew a map of Russia surrounded by so-called enemies and threatened Hollande. And then a couple of minutes later, he'd start bragging about the vast collection of French impressionist paintings that he would give him as a gift. One of the people who had to deal with Putin was Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko in 2014, and he has an interesting observation about how to deal with him.
I have several recommendations, those who have a plan to meet with Putin. Point number 1, don't trust Putin. Putin is a KGB officer who specially learned to lie. Second, please don't be afraid of Putin. Because if you're afraid of Putin, this is feeding him. And Putin go as far as we together allow him to go.
Did any Western political leaders ever really stand up to Putin?
Well, not the big ones. Not, for example, U.S. presidents like George Bush notoriously claimed to have looked into Putin's eyes and seeing his soul, or Barack Obama, who threatened a quote-unquote red line if Russia, one of Russia's client states, Syria, had used chemical weapons against its own people, which they did, and then the U.S. did absolutely nothing. Those leaders and others tried to either appease Putin or just kind of hope that he went away. Now, there were a few exceptions, and actually one of them was our former Prime Minister Stephen Harper in 2014. At the time, Russia had invaded Ukraine and occupied the Crimean Peninsula. They brought in their own soldiers, unmarked. They were called Little Green Men, and Harper decided to confront Putin about this at the G20 summit in Australia in 2020. Peter MacKay, who was foreign minister at the time, tells that story.
Vladimir Putin came into this private session with other world leaders and went immediately to our Prime Minister, Stephen Harper, who had been quite vocal about Putin and in his obvious plans for Crimea. And he made a beeline for him, put his hand out, to which, Prime Minister Harper then looked at him and said, "You need to get out of Crimea." And Putin said, "We're not in Crimea." That was the beginning of the end for Russia's participation in the G8, because everybody in the room knew that he was lying.
We know that a lot of Vladimir Putin's political opponents, this is just a fact, tend to die early deaths. How does that happen?
Yeah, it's a pattern, isn't it? I think that Putin's mindset is very binary, which is part of the KGB. You either are with him or you're against him. Simple as that. He talks about in one of the clips how he is willing to forgive everything except betrayal. Betrayal defined by him. And so a lot of former KGB agents are the classic traitors in his eyes. And the notorious case of Alexander Litvinenko makes that point. He was a KGB agent who began criticizing KGB, the FSB, Putin, ended up having to leave Russia and settled in London with his family. And then he was poisoned with a little-known substance at the time, polonium-210, radioactive, like having a little nuclear bomb inside you. And he died of a terrible, horrible death, living for 3 weeks with it. There were other examples of that from former KGB agents, but the other very famous example involved a specific political opponent, Alexei Navalny, who was an opposition party leader who tried to run against Putin in an election, which is what opposition leaders do, isn't it? And he was poisoned with something called Novichok, which is another radioactive substance, similar to the one I just described. He barely survived, was flown to Germany, where he recovered, then decided to return to Russia, was arrested immediately at the airport, ended up in prison. There was a show trial, was convicted for many, many years, and he died in prison. This happened to others. One in particular is Vladimir Karamurza, who is a journalist and now an opposition party activist. Same thing, poisoned twice, barely survived, was in the West, returned to Russia, arrested, convicted, got lucky because he was part of a prisoner exchange. We have a clip from him about how he sees this particular aspect of the Putin regime.
It's just something that a normal human mind cannot process. But it is the reality of Vladimir Putin's Russia that there is a government-operated death squad inside the security services, the main task of which, the only task of which, is to physically eliminate political opponents of the current Russian government.
Now, Alex, as we know, we were mentioning that you bring decades of experience, personal and professional, to the topic. But as you were making the documentary and preparing it, I wonder if anything either surprised you or what really stayed or stuck with you.
I thought when we were starting that I knew everything there was to know about him. Of course, that's not the case. I was wrong. I needed to look at as an example, I needed to look at a lot of old clips of Putin in interviews with Russian media. And the thing and I speak Russian. And what struck me was, aside from lying, aside from being cynical, aside from being manipulative, he is a very effective communicator. He knows exactly how to speak. He knows his crowd. He knows with whom to use slang. He knows with whom to sound like an intellectual. He's well read. He's extremely well prepared. He has been the chief propagandist for 25 years, and it clearly works. One of the things that he does, and I urge viewers who watch the documentary to pay attention to his body language, to the way that he, for example, winks sometimes, or he has these pauses. And when you look at the Russian population, it's pretty clear that they either support him or they're too afraid of him to even consider challenging him.
Alex, thank you so much for this. Can't wait to watch it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
That's a conversation that I had with Alex Sprintzen, the producer with CBC, who is part of the team that put together a 2-hour documentary, Putin's Journey. It is on YouTube right now. It airs on CBC Gem tonight. Well, right after the news, which is coming up in moments, we're going to tell you more about what is closed. There's a long list already of cancellations for buses and schools in Manitoba, and that is because of the weather. Let's get to some details on that with Heather Wells in our news at 6:30.
This is CBC News. Good Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, it's a mild 2 degrees, but drifting is beginning. We're going to see some snow beginning this morning as well. Our temperature falling to minus 13 this afternoon. And that snow is going to get in your eyes. The wind is the culprit. A blizzard is about to blanket much of southern Manitoba this morning. The blizzard warning covers Winnipeg, the Red River and Pembina Valleys, the Interlake, and east of the Manitoba Escarpment. That is a huge area. The wind is going to become north, gusting as high as 90 kilometers an hour, creating poor visibility, especially in open areas. The blizzard is expected to taper off late this afternoon or this evening. We'll have more on the blizzard as it develops throughout the morning right here on Information Radio. An 11-year-old Palestinian boy will receive life-changing medical care in Manitoba. The boy and his mother arrived in Winnipeg yesterday. Doctors Without Borders and federal officials got the pair out of Egypt after they fled Gaza. Dr. Melanie Morris at Children's Hospital has volunteered her time and her medical expertise to treat the child's genetic condition.
They receive the medical care that they need to heal and move forward. The unimaginable challenges this child and their family have faced, the loss, the fear, the uncertainty, are difficult for me to comprehend.
The province will provide long-term health care. The local Muslim community is covering housing and food costs. The province hopes to bring in a second child from Gaza who also needs urgent medical care. Now, after being delayed this week by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the Gaza ceasefire agreement is now believed to be on its way to Netanyahu's security cabinet. From there, the Knesset will need to give the deal its final approval. And it is possible an exchange of Israeli hostages for Palestinian prisoners could begin as early as Sunday. After talks this week in Washington, Foreign Affairs Minister Mélanie Joly is expected to offer an update today on Canada's response to Donald Trump's tariff threats. Joly has been meeting with both Republicans and Democrats leading up to Trump's return to the White House. Also in Washington, as part of the lobbying effort, is Energy and Natural Resources Minister Jonathan Wilkinson. You can hear more national and international news coming up on World Report at 7. Some people in Point Douglas say the province said nothing at a meeting yesterday to allay their fears about a supervised drug consumption site. The province plans to open that site at 200 Disraeli. Sheila Page is on the board of the Montessori nursery and kindergarten nearby. She says the plan only provides security in a small area around the injection site.
People will be coming out intoxicated and leaving that no-go zone and coming into the community. And we have 2.5 to 6-year-old children who play in the playground, go for walks in the neighborhood.
Page says she is concerned neither Winnipeg Police nor the Community Safety Patrol were at the meeting to explain what supports they might offer the neighborhood. A southern Manitoba paramedic has been barred from practicing after he got into a sexual relationship with a patient. Both exchanged sexually explicit messages and nude photos on and off for more than a year. The paramedic denied they had sex, but admitted there was, quote, intimate touching. The College of Paramedics says the woman had a history of substance abuse and mental health issues, and the man knew she was particularly vulnerable. Kirk Senek won't be able to practice for more than 2 years. He must also complete some ethics and paramedic standards courses before he can get his license back. An employee at a Manitoba pilot training school suffered serious injuries after being hit by a propeller earlier this month. It happened while a student of Harv's Air Service in St. Andrews Airport was trying to start an airplane engine. The engine sputtered and quit. Then an employee stepped in to help by hand rotating the propeller, but the employee was struck by that propeller. The Transportation Safety Board is investigating. Harv's Air President Adam Penner says the employee is now home from the hospital and is doing well. He says the company is fully cooperating with the safety investigation. Well, it looked like the game was headed into overtime, but then...
Shoots! He scores!
Dylan DeMello on TSN with just 27 seconds left in the third period lifting the Winnipeg Jets to a 2-1 win against the Seattle Kraken. And it couldn't have come on a better night. It was DeMello's 600th game of his career.
I'm proud of it. It takes a lot of people to help you get there. So, that was kind of in my mind before the game. And, between your family, your friends, coaches, everybody, your teammates, all the staff here to kind of just get you here. So it was that was special in its own right. And then, score the game winner, obviously just kind of put the cherry on top.
And who doesn't love a cherry on top? The Jets now take the win and close out their 8-game homestand tomorrow, hosting the Calgary Flames. You can find more news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Well, Heather, people might like the cherry on top, but apparently not the cherry blossom anymore. There's a story this morning. Remember those iconic chocolates? They're
yes,
really
I
old
love
school,
them, actually.
Right? I like them too. They're really sweet. It's a cherry. It's covered in that gooey glaze, and then it's got the milk chocolate on top. It's a dome, and they're sold. I kind of like the packaging, those yellow
the
little
box.
boxes. Yeah. They're done. They're not going to be making them anymore.
Really?
So, yeah, they go back to 1910.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, so stock up. And yeah.
Do you know what? I can't remember the last time I had one, actually.
Same with me, but I like them.
Yeah.
So I'm going to look for one today.
Yeah, they were kind of messy to eat, actually, so maybe it's better.
Yeah, we'll grab some wipes at the same time.
Okay.
All right, let's get into what's going on. And speaking of messy, the travel is messy, so I have a long list of school closures, and then Abby's going to give us our forecast here. Heather led the news with reminding us of the blizzard warning, so Abby's got some details about what's happening. So here are the cancellations of schools and buses. Entire divisions closed. Fort LaBosse is closed, Lord Selkirk is closed, and staff also not expected to report there. Rolling River, also Beautiful Plains, no buses, no school. Also Mountain View School Division closed. The following schools are closed in the DSFM: École Saint-Lazare, La Source, Jeux de Plain, Notre-Dame-de-Lourdes, as well as Gilbert-Rossé. In the Brandon School Division, no rural buses. Alexander, O'Kelly, and Spring Valley schools are also closed. And attendance at schools is at parental discretion where travel is required. Call the school if you're not going to be attending. And as you're about to hear from Corey as well, you probably aren't going to be wanting to travel anywhere anyway. So Abby, where do you want to start?
I think since you're talking about that closure, so a lot of people know why. It's because of this blizzard that's going to be hitting most of the province this morning. The southern part, most of the southern part of the province would be covered this morning. And portions of the northern part of the province, including Churchill, will be affected with strong northerly winds, blowing snow, affecting visibility on the roads, especially in open roads. We'll see temperatures falling throughout the day, and the wind chill would get to up around minus 30 and even 31, though it's going to be easing later. Looking at conditions in the regions now, Winnipeg and the Red River Valley, we're seeing temperatures around minus 2 at this time. We're expecting that snow and blowing snow sometime this morning. That would develop into blizzard later. The winds will make it feel like minus 31 when we get to the afternoon period. For the Pembina Valley region and Morden, we're seeing temperatures around minus 1 at this time. The blizzard is also developing in that area, and temperatures will be around minus 12 in the afternoon. The wind chill is also going to stay around minus 30. Heading west, Brandon has been getting that snow since last night. It should be tapering off this morning. Then temperatures will drop to around minus 12 this afternoon. Wind chill will be around minus 27. Similar conditions in the Parkland region. We're seeing temperatures around minus 6. Snow falling in that region already. Expected to clear sometime this afternoon, and then the region should be seeing 2 to 4 centimeters of snow once it tapers off, and temperatures drops to around minus 5 later. In the Interlake region, Gimli will be seeing snow this morning, a transition to a mix of sun and clouds later, and temperatures will be falling to around minus 14. For the Palm Flin Flon, we're seeing temperatures around minus 13, snow falling also. That should clear, then we'll see your temperatures drop to minus 23. And for the move further north to Thompson and Churchill, it is we're seeing drifting snow in that area. That should clear temperatures around minus 16 at this time. Churchill is currently at minus 26, and we have that blizzard in that part of the province. The wind chill is going to feel like minus 48 when you get to the afternoon for folks in Churchill. So you want to brace for that. Across the province, blizzard conditions is going to be impacting us from south all the way up north.
Yeah, and it can happen fast. So because the winds pick up and then all of a sudden you can't see. That's what's going on already in Westman. Corey's here with the commute.
Yeah, I got a call from Curtis about half an hour or so ago. He says it's near zero visibility on Highway 1 driving from Austin to Brandon right now. So Western Manitoba already getting hit right now. Another reminder also up north, the PAW, there's actually a highway closure running all the way from the PAW down through Highway 10 to where it becomes Highway 60 all the way to the intersection with Highway 6. So that whole stretch of highway closed right now, not only because of poor weather conditions, but the province is also saying it's closing it because there are many stuck vehicles along that path. So heads up there, that is entirely closed today in that area. And just one last thing here, in Winnipeg on the perimeter, I got a call from Maria, the westbound south perimeter. She says visibility, at least at this point, as of about 10 minutes ago, is still looking okay. But between St. Anne and St. Mary's, that left lane is blown in. So you just kind of have one lane on that stretch of the westbound south perimeter. And I imagine as things change quickly, I would love to get updates from folks throughout today, because I imagine by the end of the show today, I think things are going to look a lot different. Give me a call, give me updates so I can let your fellow listeners know. 204-788-3093.
Thanks, Corey.
Thank you.
So 7 divisions affected already, and now another 4. This just came in while Corey was talking. So all schools are also closed and buses canceled in Turtle Mountain School Division. Southwest Horizon School Division canceled. Staff will be assigned to work from home. Prairie Spirit School Division, schools are closed, no buses running. And then Lakeshore School Division is also closed today due to dangerous driving conditions. So stay close and maybe stay warm, and maybe don't venture out if you don't have to. Certainly check first. It is 6:41 a.m. and Phil DeMont joins us with Business News today. Good morning.
Serious question. What do you wear when it's minus 48? I have no concept of going out anywhere possibly.
Really?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm down here. It's like 3, -2.
You know what? So here, first of all, just to clarify, so minus 48 is what it feels like on exposed skin. So like your temperature, but still, right? What do you wear? A lot of layers, Phil? A lot of layers.
It just sounds like, man, you look like a Yogi Bear going out.
You kind of I honestly, you get used to it.
I suppose so.
Like you actually really do get used to it. Like it's not so. It's the visibility and the driving is the part that is.
Fair enough.
That's the part that stresses people, because you're not really going out to. You're not going out tobogganing today. When the winds are going to be 90 kilometers per hour. That's a real number in Winnipeg, right? Kids will blow over. The dogs will blow away. All right, let's get to serious news with tariffs. So next week, we're going to see whether or not Donald Trump follows through with his tariff threat against Canada. If it happens, is there any sense, we continue to ask this, about how Ottawa will respond?
Well, you get the sense that this time around, Ottawa will be quicker out of the gate with a stronger response. That's if Donald Trump follows through with his to impose that 25% tariff on Canadian exports going into the U.S. Word is that as soon as it's inaugurated, he will use certain emergency powers to slap the new tax on imports. That gets him around Congress in a long debate. In 2018, when he slapped tariffs on Canadian goods, Ottawa really kind of dithered. Didn't really know how to respond. I think they didn't expect it to happen because it seemed very outlandish at the time. Eventually, Canada put tariffs on selected American products, things like Kentucky whiskey. This time around, more ready with a package of countermeasures. The first tranche, something like $37 billion of American products. It would include high-profile but low economic cost items like orange juice from Florida, toilets, ceramic products, things that are probably in certain congressional districts, but not going to affect the overall Canadian economy that much. But if Washington's tariffs are more severe than Ottawa's plans to ratchet up, retaliatory measures probably kick in. You're looking at a number something like $150 billion of American imports. One problem, that demand from Alberta that Ottawa not impose an export tax on our oil exports going to the U.S. The problem with that is it's our largest dollar export south of the border, so a tax there, would hurt the American economy the most and give you some weight back. The whole debate, though, might be moot because Washington could well impose a 25% tariff on oil. We think there's a carve-out, but if you believe that there's going to be bilateral negotiations on trade, it would give them their biggest leverage, because you would, really put Alberta in a bit of a bind, and that would put the federal government in a bit of a bind, and that would hurt them in negotiations.
Donald Trump talks about our trade deficit with the U.S. as an American subsidy to Canada. Yeah. Tell us what he's thinking when he's framing this.
Yeah, and I frame this because it just seems like he doesn't. I used to think it was negotiated. I just don't think he understands economics that well. Here's what he's talking about. In 2023, Canada sold $32 billion more worth of goods to the U.S. than we bought from American companies. That's the trade surplus he's referring to. But it's not a subsidy. You can have a trade deficit with a country for a number of reasons. So look for the American side. The American dollar is strong right now. That makes imports into the U.S. cheaper. So that's one problem, or one reason you might have a deficit. You also might need what the other country produces. So our biggest export to the U.S. is oil and natural gas, but a number of American refineries on the Gulf Coast, down Gulf of Mexico, are specifically set up to handle Alberta's heavy oil. They could only go to Venezuela, or else, they would be kind of closed. That's an issue. Also, when you grow economically, countries often see imports jump. And the U.S. economy is expanding faster than most other countries on the planet, including Canada. So you'd kind of expect that they would import more goods in the short term. All these factors probably means the Americans, if I look through all the numbers, are running trade deficits with a whole bunch of countries, not just Canada. But it's about commerce, not subsidies. This is just kind of an odd way to put it.
And finally, you have stories about when religion is good for the economy. You know what? I was raised very religious, and so when the Pope came to Manitoba, I was in a lineup and people buying goods, and we were there in Birds Hill Park. I mean, it was just even watching that impact on our local economy. But you're talking about really big events in the world.
Yeah, I mean, you think of a rock concert, but done a different way. The annual Hajj, which is the Muslim pilgrimage to Mecca, injects something like $12 billion a year into the economy of Saudi Arabia. That's because as many as 3 million people make the journey to that Saudi city every year. But it's not the only one this year. There's a festival in northern India that will attract 400 million, with an M, million Hindu pilgrims. They'll bath in the river Ganges. One reason is this festival only happens once every 12 years, but estimates are $27 billion will get injected into that regional economy. It turns out as well, this year is Jubilee 2025, a big celebration on the Catholic religious calendar. So as many as 32 million visitors to Vatican City this year. That's 6 times the normal crowd that goes to the Holy See annually, $27 billion Canadian flowing into that area. All kinds of these festivals exist. There's the Mexican Saint Days, the Songkran Festival in Thailand. These are all religious festivals, and we don't think of them often as big economic generators. Yeah, maybe we should.
And they certainly are. What's going on in the markets this morning?
Right now, strong over in Europe. Germany, France, and the UK all up by about 1%. China's GDP for the fourth quarter beat estimates, so Hong Kong and Shanghai were in positive territory. Oil's up a nickel, $78.73 a barrel. Gold's down $13, $2,739 U.S. an ounce. And the Canadian dollar off a little more than 1/10 of a cent, trading at 69.36 cents U.S.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
Phil DeMont with Business News. Well, coming up, we're going to talk about TikTok and what comes next now that it's banned in the States. But first, a bit of music from Juno-winning jazz singer Holly Cole.
No moon at all, what a night. Even lightning bugs have dimmed their light. Stars have disappeared from sight and there's no moon at all. Don't make a sound, it's so dark. Even Fido is afraid to bark. What a perfect chance to park and there's no moon at all. Should we want atmosphere for inspiration, dear? One kiss will make it clear. Tonight is right and bright, moonlight might interfere. No moon at all up above. This is nothing like they told us of. Just to think we fell in love and there's no moon at all. fear. For inspiration, dear, one kiss will make it clear. Tonight is right and bright moonlight might interfere. Now you're here, oh so near. Whisper dear in my ear. There's no moon at all up above. This is nothing like they told us of. Just to think we fell in love and there's no moon at all. No moon at all. No moon at all.
Holly Cole and No Moon at All. This is from her upcoming album, Dark Moon. It comes out January 24th. Well, you might not see much up in the sky today once the winds start whipping around. Just a reminder of the blizzard warning that is for southern Manitoba. Does include Winnipeg. We've got 12 schools that have called it already in terms of cancellations of division because of driving conditions. We've had all kinds of calls from around, especially Austin, Dauphin, Highway 10, near zero visibility already with those whipping winds. So our winds in Winnipeg are going to reach 90 later this afternoon, and this is affecting much of the province, this blizzard warning. So check before you go out. 511 is where you can check highways. Next, let's talk about TikTok. The clock is ticking on the future of it. The popular social media platform in the States, that is, they are barring intervention from that country's top court or the sale of U.S. operations to an American buyer. The Chinese-owned app, TikTok, could be banned in the States as early as Sunday. Now, this raises questions about what a shutdown would mean for millions of users in the U.S. and here in Canada. Avery Swartz is a technology consultant and with us now. Good morning.
Good morning.
So where do things stand right now for the platform that is staring down this January 19th deadline?
Okay, so we've got to go back to this law that came into effect in April of last year that said that the U.S. government has the authority to ban foreign-owned apps that are deemed to be a threat to national security. That law said that TikTok, because it's owned by a Chinese company called ByteDance, and in China, the responsibility of companies is to pledge loyalty to the People's Republic of China, kind of over and above any loyalties to customers or shareholders. The national security force in America suggests that there is a threat from TikTok to surveil and collect data on Americans, to spread misinformation, sway public opinion. So they said, hey, TikTok, you've got a deadline. January 19, 2025, you decide. You either sell off your U.S. operations to an American buyer, or if you haven't done so by that date, you're going to be banned in this country.
Now, I want to go right, Avery. I know there's a lot of other questions, but I want to go straight to this one because the reality is already in the face of this January 19th date, people are already left. And a lot of them, of course, the reason this is ironic is because they've gone to another Chinese-owned social media platform. And this is called Red Note. So can you tell us, what your thinking is here in terms of why people have chosen that one and how ironic this is?
Yes, it's deeply ironic that people are leaving TikTok or experimenting with Red Note. Red Note is a Chinese app. It is also owned by a Chinese company. It is number one in downloads right now in the American App Store in the social media category. It's been reported that there are hundreds of thousands of American users that have signed up for Red Note just this week. For people that use TikTok, you will know that there has been a lot of talk amongst people on TikTok that's basically saying like, hey guys, if we get shut down here, where are we all going next? Where's the after party? And so they are all moving over to Red Note. Now, could Red Note also be shut down in the States the exact same way that TikTok is? Yes. It poses all of the exact same threats to national security. Will that happen? I don't know. I also don't know if TikTok itself is going to be shut down this weekend. It has been challenged in the courts. There is a hearing that is still outstanding with the Supreme Court. They met for a hearing last Friday. They have not come back with their answer yet. They're still deliberating. Also, we got to remember, if TikTok gets banned on Sunday, what happens on Monday? Well, it's Trump's inauguration. Trump's incoming national security advisor, Michael Waltz, told the press yesterday that they are going to try and stop the ban of TikTok, probably through some sort of an executive order or by saying that, hey, we need a little bit more time to find a U.S. buyer. But, I personally think we're about 50-50 right now if it's even going to shut down this weekend.
Well, and then also, what's the impact of all those users who have already migrated? Then what does that mean, right, for the future, which we'll be talking about next week? Let's look at this through a Canadian lens before you leave. So what's the status of TikTok in Canada?
It's business as usual. If you're a Canadian TikTok user or a TikTok creator, you'll still be able to use the app as you have been through the weekend.
You just lost a whole bunch of followers.
But you lost a whole bunch of followers. You also might have lost some people that you follow. The Canadian government is also concerned about this national security risk, the same way that the American government is. But the Canadian government hasn't gone so far as to say that its citizens cannot, that we are being banned from using the app. But the Canadian government did tell TikTok to get out of the country. They said, you cannot have offices here. You have to close your office in Toronto and close your office in Vancouver because of our concern. Of course, ByteDance is fighting that. We're going to see exactly how that plays out. But I have no insider knowledge, but I have strong suspicions that the PMO, whoever's meeting in the PMO these days, is keeping a close eye on what's happening with TikTok through this weekend and into next week as regards to the American ban.
All right, Avery, thank you very much for this.
Thank you.
We'll see what happens. Avery Swartz, technology consultant. We reached her this morning in Toronto. 4 minutes to 7 o'clock, and Heather Wells will have our news headlines in just a minute. First, I'm going to read out what is canceled today in terms of buses in school divisions because of the blizzard warning across much of the province, especially affecting the west. So Fort LaBosse School Division, no buses. All schools are closed. Also, Lord Selkirk School Division shut down. Staff not expected to report. Rolling River shut down. Beautiful Plains, as well as Turtle Mountain School Division, all closed today. DSFM is closing École Saint-Lazare, École La Source, École Jour de Plain, École Notre-Dame de Lourdes, as well as École Gilbert Rosset. Brandon School Division, no rural buses. Alexander O'Kelly and Spring Valley schools are closed. Attendance at schools is at parental discretion. If you have to travel, call the school, though, please, if you're not going to be able to make it. Also closed, Turtle Mountain School Division, Southwest Horizon School Division, although staff are assigned there to work from home. And all schools are closed, no buses in Prairie Spirit and in Lakeshore School Division. This is because of dangerous driving conditions, they say, around Lakeshore School Division. Heather is here now with our headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, drifting's already being reported in parts of Winnipeg. The beginnings of a blizzard about to barrel down on southern Manitoba. Winnipeg, the Red River and Pembina Valleys, the Interlake, the east side of the Manitoba Escarpment, all under this blizzard warning. The blizzard develops later this morning. North winds will gust as high as 90, creating poor visibility, especially in open areas. The blizzard is expected to taper off late this afternoon or this evening, so it's going to be here all day long. Prepare around it if you have to travel. An 11-year-old Palestinian boy is going to receive life-changing medical care in Manitoba. The boy, who has a genetic condition, and his mother arrived in Winnipeg yesterday. Doctors Without Borders and federal officials got the pair out of Egypt after they fled Gaza. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
Well, when it comes to the actual temperature, it'll fall to minus 13 this afternoon. And later today, very different day. It's going to feel like minus 31 with the wind chill. And again, those winds are going to gust up to 90. So conditions will change quickly. You might walk out and go, oh, no big deal. But this is all something we are paying attention to, obviously. So here's the calls from the road. We've had a number of them. But Ben just called the commuter line, said he was driving down Highway 8 from Clandeboye. So this is, of course, just north of Selkirk to Winnipeg. He turned around. He went home. So he said conditions are already getting bad. Freezing rain, blowing snow, everything Heather's been mentioning. Zero visibility is how Curtis described the visibility on Highway 1. So that's between Austin and Brandon, describing it as zero visibility. So that matches the forecast here. Really just consider if you have to travel today, and maybe don't head out, obviously, before checking everything, and unless it's necessary, especially in those areas already being affected. All right, it's 1 minute to 7 o'clock. Coming up, we're going to hear more about a community consultation in Point Douglas. It was held yesterday about plans for the province's first safe consumption site. Also, in the next hour, we're going to meet somebody who grew up in the Sutherland Hotel, which burned down this week and was demolished. So stay tuned for those stories and more on Information Radio on CBC. World Report's next.
Today on The Current.
Fries with gravy and cheese curds, football with 3 downs, Neil Young and Rick James together in a band. John Batt looks at nostalgic moments in Canadian history for surprising stories that unite us. Is coming up on The Current.
The Current with Matt Galloway. This morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland. And on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcott. Disagreements over the Israel-Hamas ceasefire now appear to be hammered out. So it's again time for the two sides to confer amongst themselves. Right now, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is meeting with his security cabinet so they can ratify the agreement. The CBC's Chris Brown has more.
I'm outside Israel's cabinet offices in Jerusalem, where ministers are expected to approve the ceasefire deal hammered out in Qatar. This place has become a vigil for supporters of the hostages. You can see their pictures as well as Israeli flags flying, all of it put up over 460 days ago when Hamas attacked on October the 7th. And while cabinet approval does appear to be coming, it's not done yet. There's going to be a second cabinet meeting later today that should remove the final hurdle towards releasing hostages and Palestinian detainees starting on Sunday. The Prime Minister's office released a statement earlier overnight saying the text of the deal has been agreed to, and that came after a day of last-minute glitches, which Israel blamed on Hamas, but internal politics are clearly also an issue. Far-right Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir has said he will quit this government unless Israel continues attacking Gaza, but other far-right ministers appear to be staying, which may hold Netanyahu's governing coalition together, at least for now. Earlier, a list of 33 hostages to be released over the next few weeks was published. We don't know how many people on that list are alive, but it does include the youngest captive, a mother, her 5-year-old son, and a baby who was just 9 months old when Hamas attacked on October the 7th. We're also expecting to soon see a list of Palestinians to be released. More than 11,000 Palestinians are in Israeli jails, some for violent crimes, but many others are in jail without ever having been convicted of anything. Chris Brown, CBC News, Jerusalem.
U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, meanwhile, is urging the two sides to implement the deal quickly.
Frankly, it better be done before I take the oath of office. You know, we shook hands and we signed certain documents, but it better be done.
Trump was speaking in a podcast interview, once again taking credit for the deal, saying negotiations would not have succeeded without pressure from his team, and adding outgoing President Joe Biden didn't do anything to secure the hostages' freedom. Ahead of Monday's inauguration ceremony, Donald Trump's inaugural fund is reporting a record $170 million in donations. Most of that is from major corporations, including many first-time donors from the worlds of tech, artificial intelligence, and crypto. As Jenna Benchertrit tells us, they're all hoping to make a positive impression.
The oath of office I take today is an oath of allegiance to all Americans.
Donald Trump speaks at his inauguration 8 years ago. This time, he'll have more allies from Silicon Valley. Google, Meta, and OpenAI, with crypto firms like Ripple, are donating $1 million each to an inaugural fund for the first time. Some of their CEOs will attend the ceremony. They hope Trump will relax regulation of the tech industry.
Companies are kind of reading in the tea leaves of what is it that, Donald Trump supporters care about, and maybe our corporate values, over the last several years haven't been aligned with American values.
Republican lobbyist Ozzie Palomo says that the stigma once attached to Trump is gone. Companies want to be at the policymaking table, not on the menu.
They don't want to be on the president's bad side.
Brendan Glavin is a director at Open Secrets, a nonprofit tracking money in politics. He notes Trump has a history of publicly berating companies he disagrees with.
And I think past experience is dictating some of the actions in this.
American firms like Boeing have always donated to inaugurations as a hat tip to incoming administrations. But some are feeling a bit more generous this year, and inaugural funds aren't bound by strict donation rules. Afterwards, the organizing committee has 90 days to declare who donated and how much. Some have declared it publicly well in advance. Jenna Benchertrit, CBC News, Toronto.
In this country, the pool of Liberal leadership candidates is growing, with two more contenders expected to enter the race in the coming days. Both have senior cabinet credentials, And as Ashley Burke tells us, their launches will come on the heels of Mark Carney's official announcement, which was heavily focused on the economy.
Mr. Mark Carney!
At his campaign launch in Edmonton, Mark Carney promised to build the fastest growing economy in the G7 if he's elected.
I am going to be completely focused on getting our economy back on track.
The former governor of the Bank of Canada and England also took a shot at his party and Justin Trudeau, who he wants to replace.
I know I'm not the only Liberal in Canada who believes that the Prime Minister and his team let their attention wander from the economy too often.
MP Salma Zahid among the 8 members of Liberal caucus at Carney's announcement supporting him.
I think he has the economic experience which we need right now.
But on the streets of Edmonton, the reaction is mixed.
Yeah, he's an actual federal leader I could maybe get behind.
His history as a banker does concern me a little bit.
I don't know how easily he'll be able to persuade Albertans or the West to see him as something other than the Liberals.
This weekend, 2 other contenders are expected to enter the race. Former Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland and House Leader Karina Gould. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
Speaking of Chrystia Freeland, the former finance minister has updated her Twitter bio. In it, she all but confirms she's entering the race. It says, quote, "I'm running to fight for Canada," and she describes herself as a proud Canadian, mother, wife, and Liberal. In Los Angeles, thousands of evacuees are still waiting to return home. Extensive work is being done to clean up fire-stricken areas. And even though the fire is out, many properties face a new threat. Cameron McIntosh reports.
So right now we have a building that has been red tagged by our...
It had a great ocean view. High above California's scenic Pacific Coast Highway, a house sits split in half. It survived LA's Palisades fire until the land above it gave way. Captain Adam Van Gerpen is with the LA Fire Department.
So after a wildfire, the burn scar areas are always prone to mudslides and debris flows.
Call it a cautionary tale is an example of why evacuees with homes to go back to are being told it may take weeks. There's unstable land, utilities needing repair, debris and toxins requiring cleanup. And while most are thinking about returning and rebuilding, others are evaluating the next potential disaster. The fires here tore up and down slopes, leaving what's below prone to mudslides as the rainy season approaches.
And so we're looking at how fast the water infiltrates into the soil.
Drew Coe is part of a watershed emergency response team. After fires, they test soil stability, so communities know where the dangers lurk.
Instead of expecting the entire fire area to unravel, they'll know where 75, 100 spots may be problematic for them.
Most are just thinking about getting through this disaster, with tens of thousands not knowing when they'll return to their homes. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Los Angeles.
Overseas, as many as 50 people are feared dead after a boat capsized near Morocco. The majority of them Pakistani nationals, according to rights groups. The vessel was reportedly carrying 80 migrants destined for Europe. It left Mauritania on January 2nd. That route has emerged as a primary point of departure for migrants aiming to reach Europe. Meanwhile, former Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan is facing another jail term for corruption. He was sentenced to an additional 14 years today. His wife was sentenced to 7 years. The couple is accused of accepting gifts in exchange for laundering money when Khan was in power. Khan's sister, Halima Khanum.
This is a fake case. It's a politically motivated case. Everybody in Pakistan knows it. This will go into High Court and most probably get squashed because it is so ridiculous.
Imran Khan has been in jail since 2023 for other corruption convictions. He has long denied guilt, calling the accusations politically motivated. And finally, lawyers for the late Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny are behind bars this morning. The 3 men stand in the defendant's cage listening as the judge reads her verdict during the closed-door trial. They were found guilty of belonging to an extremist group. Their sentences range between 3.5 to 5.5 years. Navalny was a fierce critic of President Vladimir Putin. He died suddenly in an Arctic penal colony a year ago. Navalny's wife, Yulia, calls the lawyers political prisoners and says they were arrested for simply doing their job. Well, that is the latest national and international news from World Report. Remember, you can listen to us live every morning on the CBC News app. Just tap on the local icon. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
Well, it is not a good morning, Manitoba, because we have a blizzard warning in effect for much of the province, and that means that schools in many divisions are closed today, and there's already people turning around on the roadways because of zero visibility in parts of the province. So we're going to walk you through all of this, and you might be waking up, looking out the window in Winnipeg and thinking, really? But we are under the blizzard warning as well. We're going to get winds up to 90 later. So Heather's going to talk about it, so are Abby and Corey. Everybody's here to get you updated. I'm going to mention some other stories we've got coming up. One of them is about a couple in Winnipeg motivated by high food prices and a love of food. They started teaching how to make different Chinese dishes, and this weekend they're focusing on dim sum. So we're going to talk to them about their story. In addition, we'll hear more about a community consultation in Point Douglas yesterday, the first of many, about the plans for the province's first safe consumption site. And as the Sutherland Hotel burned down this week, some would have seen it as another vacant building. But for a man we'll talk to this hour, it was part of his childhood. He grew up in that hotel in many ways. His parents were one of the owners over the years. So stay tuned. We're going to hear from him just before 8. Right now, though, we are turning our attention back to the weather because it's serious today. Here's Heather to start us off.
Good morning. Yes, and you will feel it, as Marcy mentioned, especially out on the highways in open areas. This blizzard warning in Winnipeg also gets set to get blown around because the wind is going to be gusting as high as 90 kilometers an hour. Snow beginning this morning. We're already beginning to see some drifting in Winnipeg. So under the blizzard warning, we've got Winnipeg, the Red River and Pembina Valleys, the Interlake, and the east side of the Manitoba Escarpment. There will be poor visibility, especially on highways in open areas. The blizzard stays with us through the day, finally beginning to taper off late this afternoon or this evening. So be careful if you're out there. And Environment Canada saying, it's a good idea not to be on the highways today. That wind and blowing snow are going to make visibility almost impossible. Manitoba's taken in an 11-year-old Palestinian boy who needs life-changing medical care. The boy and his mother arrived in Winnipeg yesterday. Doctors Without Borders and federal officials got the two out of Egypt after they fled Gaza. The province hoping to bring in a second child from Gaza who also needs urgent medical care. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather Wells.
You're welcome.
Abby Adeyemi is here to talk a little bit about what our current conditions are like.
Yeah, current conditions. I'm also tracking that blowing snow in the Dauphin and Brandon region. The area since yesterday, they're under that blowing snow advisory, and it's still impacting the Westman and the Parkland region. We're seeing northwest winds gusting there, and this could lead to poor visibility. So a lot of people already calling that is impacting. So if you're in the Brandon and Dauphin region, you should be noticing that. Take care on the highway. Within city limits, we will see, it's not going to be as bad as what it would look like on the highways. If you're talking about the perimeter and Trans-Canada Highway, it's going to be hazardous as we will be seeing blowing snow and also snow covering portions of the road. But looking at conditions in Winnipeg at this time, we are currently at -2. The weather is mostly cloudy. The snow I just picked outside, it's already starting, and then this blizzard is going to develop through the morning, easing by the afternoon period. We will see some clear conditions and temperatures will be falling to around -13 in the afternoon, though the wind chill is going to make it feel like -31. So in summary, strong winds are going to be picking up those loose snow on the ground, causing reduced visibility, making driving really, really hard this morning.
You bet. Corey's been getting calls.
Yeah, I got a call from Maria, who drives from Lorette, just east of Winnipeg, to Portage Prairie every day. She made it as far as St. Francis Xavier and was like, nope, I'm turning this ship around. conditions are deteriorating really quickly, and it's only a matter of time now until it's going to start impacting the drive here in Winnipeg, particularly on the perimeter. So I would love to get updates from folks. Also got an update from Curtis, who said Highway 1 visibility around Brandon, starting from Austin, is bad, and he started making his way to Souris, Highway 2, Highway 10 area. He's seeing cars in the ditch. Western Manitoba, if you're driving this morning, just assume it's really, really bad, treacherous conditions for you. I'll be keeping an eye on things as they deteriorate throughout the morning, because that's where things are heading throughout southern Manitoba on those highways. Give me a call what you're seeing. I would love to get updates from you, especially now that it is looking like it's only a matter of time until it starts to hit the Winnipeg, and curious what the perimeter is like. Give me a call, 204-788-3093.
Yeah, and as Heather said, it's really already starting to hit Winnipeg just slightly here, so it's going to get worse. Here's what's closed in terms of schools and school divisions. Brandon School Division, buses aren't operating rurally. Alexandra, O'Kelly, and Spring Valley schools are closed. DSFM has closed St. Lazare, La Source, Geur de Plaine, Notre Dame, as well as Gilbert-Rosset. All those schools are closed. Prairie Rose School Division, schools in all three regions are closed. Southwest Horizon School Division, no buses or classes. Staff are assigned to work from home. Schools are closed in Lorc-Selkirk School Division, no buses running. Staff are not expected to report to their place of work. And finally, here's the big list, and this means all these divisions are closed, no buses, just completely shut down. Fort LaBosse, Rolling River, Beautiful Plains, Turtle Mountain, Prairie Spirit, Lakeshore School Division, all closed. You will be able to check our website for that list, cbc.ca/Manitoba. Well, up next, have you ever gone for dim sum and then wished you could eat it every day, or had the skills to make it at home? Well, a Winnipeg chef is holding a dim sum making workshop on the weekend. So you might be able to eat those homemade soup dumplings and steam buns as much as you'd like. Chef John Huet is putting on the workshop, and Jasmine Huet is also a part of helping out, and they both are with me. And Chef John is going to be speaking mostly in Mandarin today, so Jasmine's going to be here to support with some translation. Hi, Jasmine. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Very well. Nice to meet you, Chef John.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too.
So what do you make and teach people to make in this workshop, John?
为什么做这个厨师课？为什么做这个厨师课呢？首先我是 So John talked in 3 points. So why he started the cooking classes or cooking workshops. So the first point is because inflation. So since inflation after COVID, so people changed their way of how to, like in purchasing, we changed. So there are a lot of takeout. We can see a huge surge in taking out businesses in the restaurants. And more people are choosing to cook their own food. So that's the reason we started to teach people how to cook. There is a popular saying in China. It said, "Get a man fish, you feed him for a day. If you teach a man how to fish, you feed him for a lifetime." The second point is John wants everyone to know about traditional Chinese food. So, for example, chow mein and fried rice is a very popular dish on ginger beef, westernized dishes. In China, China has a long history, over 5,000 years old. So there are a lot of provinces provide variety of dishes. So we want people to learn about Chinese culture and Chinese dishes. For example, in Szechuan, the Szechuan hot pot, on Chongqing, boiled fish. And in our own province, Henan province, we have braised noodles. Is my favorite too. And there are so many other dishes we want to share with other people. And the last point is, so in our cooking classes, we have a very special consideration for people's dietary restrictions. For example, gluten-free. So we have, in our first cooking class on chow mein, the fried noodles, we had 10 participants. 7 out of them were gluten-free. So it's surprised us, there is a special needs in this population. So we found in Winnipeg, there is a very limited restaurants provide gluten-free food. And there are many people reporting being sick after eating. Even they say gluten-free, but they still being sick after having the food. So it's our motivation to provide, to teach people how to cook so they can make their safe meal at home. And while they also enjoy the cost saving of it. And it's also a way to bring family together, to have food together, to enjoy its food. It's a way to express love to your family too. It's in China. For example, my husband, when he wants to express his love, he uses action. He cooks me food. So that's the 3 points we why we started the cooking classes.
I love that. Love that. I want to ask about how difficult it is to teach, because when I go for dim sum, there's an artistry to it, because everything's in these smaller portions, and there's a beauty to folding how do you teach that? I understand you have a special artist that is actually at the workshop. Is that right?
教这个打折的情况下，就是先用一个擀面杖。
So John explained, when doing the wrap, it's very important, for doing the dim sum. We got, so the flour is raised. First we got we use a roller, roller pin, a special Chinese roller pin. It's smaller size than the traditional westernized one. Mm-hmm. So we roll the wrapper to about around 10 centimeters. And then we add the filling. So, and then you're making a wave shape around it. So that's the reason we brought a Chinese artist. She is a very talented artist in Winnipeg. We can do good wrappings, but she can be more artistic. That's why we brought her on board. Ada Zhang will be on board to help with to demo the artistic folding.
What is the reaction you've had from people who take the classes?
So this is our first dim sum class.
Oh, I'm sorry. You've had previous classes, but this is the first dim sum.
Yeah, we have done 11 dishes over the past 3 months. So we didn't repeat anyone yet. So each class is different. We have done chow mein, done ginger beef, lemon chicken, kung pao chicken, many other dishes already.
And what's been the reaction, John, to the other cooking classes that you've had so far?
So there is a lot of good ratings, and there are many returning learners. So it's recently, we are seeing more and more family coming together. So in our last cooking class, the lady brought his son and her son and her a son's girlfriend. They came together. And we have some couples coming together, and some people coming even from their brothers and sisters with their adults, they haven't seen each other for a while, or even friends. They come together to the workshop to do the bonding. So we really cherish these moments, and people really enjoy the food, and they so we also allow them to take home what they made, so they share with their family.
I love that because, as you said, it is so important, food, to sharing, to showing love to family. How important is dim sum in Chinese culture overall? John, I don't know if you want to answer that one.
在我们北方呢，在北方。
Yeah, John said dim sum, especially for the steamed buns and baozi, we mentioned. So these are our we are from northern China, so we eat wheat-based products a lot. The steamed buns is our daily dish. In the morning, we might have eat a soup and steamed buns. That's our breakfast. So it's a daily living thing. So it's a perfect combination of nutrition too. It's in the fillings you can have meat, vegetables, and the carbo outside the layer. So it's a perfect combination, and we eat every day. So it's a very important thing in our Chinese, in our culture. So it has been there for 1,000 years. So that's why we have been eating it's more here bread. What do you eat bread every day? So it's very similar to that.
Thank you so much for sharing with us today on CBC, and good luck with your workshop. Pleasure to meet both of you. John and Jasmine, thank you.
Thank you.
Chef John Shui and his wife Jasmine, you can catch their dim sum workshop Sunday, 2 to 4, Riverview Community Center. Now, to be clear here, space is limited. It is $50. It includes supplies, tools, instruction, a tasting. But you can email to reserve a spot, john.kitchenmb@gmail.com. Well, CBC is setting up shop at UMSU University Center at the University of Manitoba, starting on Monday all the way until the end of the month. This is part of our Communities in Focus program. We want to hear from students there about the issues that matter to Gen Z and what's on their minds. CBC reporter Gavin Axelrod is going back to school to be our boots-on-the-ground reporter there. And first, though, he joins us in studio to talk about it a bit. Good morning.
Morning, Marcy. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So what are you looking forward to in terms of being part of this?
Well, I think it's going to be a really great opportunity to connect, especially with young people. It's an audience I know we're always trying to tap more into. I'm someone who's part of Gen Z, so I'm excited to give a window into the thoughts of our generation and some of our programming coming up, and also just looking forward to speaking with so many people from so many different backgrounds, because on a university campus, you really get people from all different walks of life.
Yeah, and all over the world. So what kinds of stories are you going to be sort of looking for on campus? I know we try to follow the lead of who comes to talk to us, but you have some things in mind.
So we can't give too much away, but what we're going to be looking into is a little bit of stuff about relationships, how folks are feeling about their future here in Manitoba. On January 28th, we're also going to be doing a town hall at UMSU University Center in the Fireside Lounge there, where we're going to dig into issues facing international students. But like you said, the best part about all of this is that we're super flexible. So if people have story ideas on campus when we're there, we're pretty wide open, and we'll work with some of the stories that may find us while we're there on campus.
I'm part of that town hall, actually. I'm really looking forward to it. What other events, though, at University of Manitoba campus, do we already know or plan that people might be able to think about engaging in?
So this is going to be a super interactive experience. Starting Monday, we're going to have a welcome event at the University Center Fireside Lounge there. Yes, for anybody listening that's a student there's going to be free food. So that's a big part, I know, for a lot of university students. But also, we're going to be having panel discussions every Thursday starting at noon. And then there's also going to be live shows of Up to Speed every Wednesday, too. And Nadia Kidwai, who's our senior producer of Community Connection, she's also going to be holding office hours. So it'll be a good chance for folks who may not want to partake in some of those panels to just talk with Nadia one-on-one, and maybe there'll be a story idea that comes out of that for the pop-up, or something that we can pursue after our pop-up for our regular news coverage.
Lots of plans. All right, Gavin, thanks for coming in and telling us about it.
Thanks so much for having me.
Gavin Axelrod actually joined us in studio yesterday to talk about Communities in Focus. It starts Monday. Now, we will get to sports, first of all, just in the last couple of minutes, we had all these flurry of highway closures because of the blizzard. Highway 5, Sask border to Roblin to the Narrows. Highway 50, McCreary to Silver Ridge. Highway 83, Russell to Santa Clara. Highway 10 through Riding Mountain. In the north, Highways 10 and 60 from the Paw to the intersection with Highway 6. All of these are closed. This is poor winter driving conditions, stuck cars in some cases. We've heard from people turning around, near zero visibility in parts of Manitoba. This blizzard warning is serious, and the conditions change quickly. Please check 511 and consider not traveling if you don't have to today. And now it is time to talk about the Jets, who keep on rolling. Scott Regehr, take it away.
Yeah, 3 wins in a row for Winnipeg now, Marcy, after they beat Seattle last night. Winnipeg now with points in all but a single game so far this month. This game looked like it was headed towards overtime, and then an unlikely hero emerged. Skating in his 600th game, defenseman Dylan DeMello sniped home the winner.
600 games is obviously, I think it's a great accomplishment. I'm proud of it. That was special in its own right. And then, score the game winner, obviously just kind of put the cherry on top. And you kind of come to in our initial huddle, guys are going nuts and, profanities and all that fun stuff. And then you come to the bench and you can just see everybody's, face lighten up. And then come to the room, everybody was all jacked up. So it was a special night.
Yeah, the Jets top the NHL standings, tied with Washington at the moment, and have one more home game before they head out on the road. That home game goes tomorrow night against the Flames.
Let's go to football. We now know the NFL's Final Four. Well, we will, by the end of the weekend. What are you watching for?
In the NFC, Marcy, to see if Detroit is for real. The Lions have not won a championship in close to 70 years, but they're considered Super Bowl favorites. They'll play against Washington tomorrow. Then you have the Rams, who have been displaced by the wildfires in Los Angeles and are playing with great emotion and great skill at the moment. I would not be surprised at all to see them upset the Eagles in Philadelphia. In the AFC, a battle of two of the best bets for MVP this season in Josh Allen and the Lamar Jackson-led Ravens. Allen, of course, with the Bills. And then, of course, you have the game between Houston and Kansas City as well. Casey has tried to do something that's never been done before. That's win 3 consecutive Super Bowls. And if they do it, Quarterback Patrick Mahomes will be the key, although Mahomes, Marcy, has had other things going on this week. His wife gave birth to their third child.
It's been cool to welcome another baby girl in our family and see how my other kids react to her and having baby Sissy and stuff like that. So it's been a lot of fun, and it was cool that football was on TV when I was in the hospital, so I got to watch a little bit. And so Brittany was kind enough to let us watch football as she was getting ready to give birth to our second daughter.
My son was born during the Sochi Olympics, Marcy, and I got busted watching moguls on my phone when I was supposed to be paying 100% attention to my newborn. So I can say from experience, be careful, Patrick. Be very, very careful.
Thanks, Scott. Have a great weekend.
You too.
That's Scott Regehr with Morning Sports. And of course, for the latest in the tennis, you can check cbc.ca/sports. We saved ourselves some time here, though. I just want to mention, because we have highways closing, like left, right, and center right now. Corey will summarize that after the news. We have the blizzard warning in much of Manitoba. We have a huge list of school cancellations. The latest ones that just came in are Garden Valley School Division closing schools and canceling buses. Mennonite Collegiate Institute in Gretna will have remote learning today. Those are the latest in a long list. I will read the full list after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:30, we're still at -2, and out at the airport, light freezing drizzle is being reported. We'll see the snow, that drizzle turning into snow, and the wind picking up. Our temperature is going to fall today to -13 this afternoon with a risk of frostbite. But right now, it is the calm before the storm in Winnipeg. A blizzard warning blankets much of southern Manitoba. It covers Winnipeg, the Red River and Pembina Valleys, Interlake, and the east side of the Manitoba Escarpment. Dan Fulton is a meteorologist at Environment and Climate Change Canada. He says the temperature overnight rose to 2, but is dropping quickly as this system moves in.
The cold front is just on our doorstep. I'm looking at the radar now. The snow is just to the northwest of the city, and actually some light snow has just started. I see reported at the airport in Winnipeg.
Fulton says Winnipeg isn't expecting a lot of snow with this system, but it's the wind gusting to 90 kilometers an hour this afternoon. And Fulton anticipates near zero visibility and treacherous conditions in open areas. He says the city inside, the city should not be as bad. Already, as Marcy mentioned, there are road closures around the Paw because of poor road conditions. You can hear the complete list of road conditions which are closed, as well as school closures coming up after this newscast. Manitoba has taken in an 11-year-old Palestinian boy who needs life-changing medical care. The boy and his mother arrived in Winnipeg yesterday. Doctors Without Borders and federal officials got the pair out of Egypt after they fled Gaza. Dr. Melanie Morris at Children's Hospital has volunteered her time and medical expertise to treat the child's genetic condition. Morris says she feels a profound responsibility to help.
Their strength, their resilience in the face of such adversity is truly humbling. I'm here to provide care. I'm deeply moved by their courage and their strength.
The province will provide long-term health care. The local Muslim community is covering housing and food costs. The province hopes to bring in a second child from Gaza who also needs urgent medical care. A southern Manitoba paramedic has been barred from practicing after he got into a sexual relationship with a patient. Both exchanged sexually explicit messages and nude photos on and off for more than a year. The paramedic denied they had sex but admitted there was, quote, intimate touching. The College of Paramedics says the woman had a history of substance use and mental health issues, and the man knew she was particularly vulnerable. Kirk Senek won't be able to practice for more than 2 years. He must also complete some ethics and paramedic standards courses before he can get his license back. Some people in Point Douglas say the province has not explained how they will be protected from a supervised drug consumption site. The province plans to open the site at 200 Disraeli. Sheila Page is on the board of the nearby Montessori nursery and kindergarten. She was at a meeting yesterday with officials from the province and Aboriginal Health and Wellness. Page says the plan only provides security in a small area around the injection site.
We already deal with disruptive behaviors and confrontational behaviors and debris, drug debris, human waste left behind. So who's going to be responsible for helping us cope with any increase in disruptive behaviors that come about?
Paige wants to know what Winnipeg Police and the Community Safety Patrol will do to protect the neighborhood. She says neither were at the meeting. An employee at a Manitoba pilot training school suffered serious injuries after being hit by a propeller earlier this month. It happened while a student of Harv's Air Service at St. Andrews Airport was trying to start an airplane engine. The engine sputtered and quit. Then an employee stepped in to help by hand rotating the propeller, but the employee was struck by the propeller. The Transportation Safety Board is investigating. Harv's Air President Adam Penner says the employee is now home from hospital and is doing well. He says the company is fully cooperating with the safety investigation. Chrystia Freeland is running to be the next leader of the Liberal Party and Prime Minister of Canada. She says in a statement posted on social media she will officially launch her campaign on Sunday. You can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 8. Well, it came right down to the wire.
Shoots! He scores! And in his 600th game, Dylan DeMello gives the Jets the lead with 27 seconds to go.
Cutting him coming in there tight there. Dylan DeMello at the end of the third period on TSN as the Winnipeg Jets avoid overtime, beating the Seattle Kraken 2-1. And the game-winning goal, what DeMello calls the cherry on top, came on his 600th career game. How does that feel?
I think it was just kind of euphoria, to be honest with you. It was just so pumped. I think I had my hands in the air for quite a while, so I just thought I'd look up there as well to see if there's anything up there.
Well, the Winnipeg Jets close out their 8-game homestand tomorrow against the Calgary Flames. You can find more Manitoba news updated throughout the day. Just head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
Okay. It's very busy this morning because of what's going on with the weather. So right now, because he's in early, we've pulled actually Riley Lachuk in to deliver our forecast, but also to deliver what's happening with this blizzard warning and this system. Riley, you were just reflecting that, like, what a difference, an hour makes. Right?
I walked into work about an hour ago and it was like slushy and a little bit damp out there, and now we're starting to get into that snow here in the Red River Valley as expected. So this is a taste.
Yeah.
We get a taste of it.
And it's fast moving. We're having people call us that say, I headed out, I figured it was not bad, and then they turned around. Some people are already in ditches. So give us the trajectory and where the warnings are and what we're expecting.
Okay, so first off, Winnipeg right now under a blizzard warning, the Red River Valley down to the U.S. border, the southern edge of Lake Gimli now into this blizzard warning as well. This means that we're looking at winds 40 kilometers an hour or greater, visibility 400 meters or less, lasting at least 4 hours. That's the criteria for a blizzard warning. Doesn't mean we're not going to see reduced visibility or very treacherous road conditions elsewhere across the south, but that's just to give you a sense of why the blizzard warning has been issued, even though we're not really expecting all that much snow across southern Manitoba, maybe a couple centimeters here in Winnipeg. So to give you a sense of what's to come. So right now, Winnipeg, we've dropped to -3 at the moment. Brandon, Dauphin, -6, -8 right now, -10 in Swan River. So that's where that cold front is starting to sweep through, bringing those very gusty northwesterly winds into the city right now. So overnight winds, not all that strong. We did see winds at about 20 kilometers an hour through the overnight period briefly in Winnipeg. Well, now we're up to sustained wind at 50, gusting to 60 at the airport, gusts almost to 70 into the Brandon and Dauphin regions right now. So that wind is all starting to make its way south and east along that cold front as that area of low pressure begins to make its way out into northwestern Ontario. Like I mentioned, not all that much in terms of snow coming, but it's the wind that is really going to make things treacherous as we get through the rest of the day today. So as I mentioned, that blizzard warning for the Interlake, the Red River Valley, the city of Winnipeg, into Portage la Prairie, Eastman and Westman, both under a blowing snow advisory. We're looking at the potential for wind gusts greater than or around 90 kilometers an hour in the Red River Valley, more like 60 to 70 into the Westman region. So the snow itself clears out by the time we get to lunchtime even. So we're back into a mainly cloudy sky. We start to get some clearing by lunch here in the Red River Valley, and that sets us up for a sunny and cold weekend. Wind gusts continue as we get through the afternoon hours, so it's going to be a very dicey day out on the highways, particularly west of the city, north, Highway 6, 7, 8, 9, looking at probably some pretty treacherous conditions.
It
as
already
we get through the
is.
rest
Corey's
of the
about
day.
to talk about closures.
Yeah, we've gotten calls from all those places you just mentioned there, Riley.
So, Riley, sorry, I interjected there. You were going to say something else.
I'll very quickly mention temperatures behind this fall very drastically down to minus 13 by this afternoon. So some very cold air coming once we get through the rest of the day here.
Well, pour some coffee. You're going to have a long day.
It's going to be a long day.
Thank you very much for
You're
being
welcome.
in studio.
Yep, you bet.
So we pulled CBC weather specialist Riley Lechuk in to help us understand this big system and what's happening now and later. He will join us again after 8, but you heard Corey here to talk about what's closed.
Yeah, lots of highways closing, particularly western Manitoba, north and west of Riding Mountain area. So here's a list for you. Highway 5 from the Saskatchewan border and Roblin through Dauphin to the Narrows. Highway 20 from Dauphin to Fork River. Highway 10 from Asheville to Ethelbert. Highway 10 through Riding Mountain there. Highway 50 from McCreary to Silver Ridge. Highway 83 from Russell to San Clara. Highway 45 from the Sask border through Russell to Rossburn. And Highway 5 from Brookdale to Eden. Also all morning in northern Manitoba, Highway 10 from the Paw to the highway to the intersection with Highway 60 is now closed. Highway 60 for a while was closed. Now that's actually reopened. So that's the one little bit of good news that Paw's been there. But here in Winnipeg, conditions are deteriorating very quickly. Got a call from Maria, who was on her way to Portage la Prairie, turned around because it was so bad out there on that highway, on Highway 1 west of the city. She's now on South Perimeter, and she says it's gotten really, really bad. Very poor conditions, very slippery right now. So things are looking bad, deteriorating very quickly here on the perimeter. So be very careful if you're hitting the highways this morning. If you see anything else, though, give me a call. Let me know what you're seeing. 204-788-3093.
This is the last time I'm going to do the school cancellations on the air here, and that is because you can go to our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba. The full list lives there if you want to check your division or whether or not buses are running. So here's what is closed. Garden Valley School Division, no schools, no buses. Mennonite Collegiate Institute has a remote learning day today. Prairie Rose School Division, school in all 3 regions are closed. DSFM has closed St. Lazare, La Source, Dieu de Plain, Notre Dame, and Gilbert Rosset. Brandon School Division, no rural buses. Alexander, O'Kelly, and Spring Valley schools are closed. Also, Southwest Horizon School Division, buses, classes canceled. Staff are to work from home. In Lord Selkirk School Division, no buses, no classes, but staff are not expected to report to work today in person. In addition, we know these are all closed and no buses running. Fort LaBosse School Division, Rolling River, Beautiful Plains, Turtle Mountain, Southwest Horizon School Division as well. Also Prairie Spirit and Lakeshore. That is the full list to this hour. Please see it online. You probably already know, but just want to mention that one more time here on the air. Well, let's get to other things going on beyond our serious weather today. I'm Marcy Marcusa. You are with CBC. This is Information Radio. Well, for some people who live and work in North Point Douglas in Winnipeg, that part of the city, they got to hear some more details about the province's plan for a supervised consumption site. The proposed site's at 200 Disraeli. The province's first community consultation session happened yesterday. About 20 people were there giving feedback about how they feel about the plan. The session was not open to media, but CBC's Alana Cole did speak with the Minister of Housing, Addictions and Homelessness, Bernadette Smith, after the meeting.
Of course, people have concerns, and we know that there's safety concerns. People are concerned about safety, and we assured them we're not moving forward unless, safety is our number one priority, right? Always. We want to make sure that the community feels safe about where the site's going to be. We have been working collaboratively with the police. We've been working with Aboriginal Health and Wellness. We've been working with Downtown Community Safety Patrol. And we want to assure, the folks that are in and around Point Douglas that this is going to make the community safer. And this is not just about folks coming in to use, but it's about connecting people to services. We know that people are dying of overdoses in higher numbers in our province here, and that there's a need for this in our province. We've heard this, from community members. We've heard this from organizations. We know that there's unsupervised consumption going on all over our province. We know that there's a lot of crime happening, and we feel with our housing strategy that we just released that this is interconnected, that getting people the supports that they need, wraparound supports, access to whether the root cause of it is because they've come from residential school or the intergenerational effects or family breakdown, that we can get them the supports that they need in that center. We can get them direct line into treatment and recovery. We can get them access to wellness workers, mental health workers, access to EIA, so social services. So it's not just about using in that site, but it's connecting them into services. And the interconnectedness of our plan provincially is what's going to make this plan successful.
Now, Sheila Page is a member of the Board of Directors for Children's House Montessori School, and Sharon Johnson's lived in the neighborhood 16 years. Both are in support of supervised consumption sites, but both have very different opinions about the location. They were among the residents who managed to get into the meeting yesterday, even though it was identified as being for businesses.
And our main concerns are that the talk is that there will be a no-go zone that will be quite secure around the proposed location, where there will be a strong security presence, but that's a very limited area around the injection site, and we're concerned about what happens beyond the no-go zone. If it's clear that they intend people to be able to come in, inject their drugs under supervision, and access related healthcare, mental health, and rehabilitation services. But they also acknowledge that those services may not be something that the user is looking for at that time. And so our concern is that people will be coming out intoxicated and leaving that no-go zone and coming into the community. And we have, as I say, 2.5 to 6-year-old children who play in the playground, go for walks in the neighborhood. So we have, I think, legitimate concerns about the increase in disruptive behaviors that may come about the community at large rather than the services that are being offered. I have no quarrel with the services that they're offering. I do have misgivings about what's going to happen to the neighborhood. I would like to see more of a presence from the agencies that they reference as supporting their security approaches, specifically the Winnipeg Police Service and the community safety patrol, community downtown safety patrol. They weren't there today, so we don't know what resources they have and are going to be putting towards increasing security in this neighborhood.
We're in a neighborhood that has been really systematically defunded and pushed aside by the provincial government and by the city for a very long time. People have been, every agency pretty much has been defunded, and we just watched the Millennium Library Community Connections get defunded. So to have another space opening up in the neighborhood that is offering services and connection to services is very exciting, because we've really only seen these kinds of closures, and we've sort of been, what can I say? We're watching our landmarks burn down sort of one at a time down the strip, it's really quite traumatizing for a lot of people who have lived here a long time to see these familiar things just go away with arson or whatever, it's just, you feel sometimes like, you're just overwhelmed by all of the bad things that are happening. And it's very, it's I guess, obvious that there's a lot of fear and distrust towards the government, because we haven't been treated very well. And the things that are beloved to us have been defunded and have been ignored and pushed to the side, or we've been given quick little answers. And, so it's nice to see something so expansive, such as the housing plan, come forward, and to know that it's already being supported by the community partners that are in place doing good work already, is just like the first good news I've heard in so long.
Sharon Johnson, longtime North Point Douglas resident, in conversation with CBC's Alana Cole. We also heard from Sheila Page, a board member at the Children's House Montessori School in the area. If you want to read more about this meeting, you can go to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Monday, January 20th is the inauguration day of Donald J. Trump.
This will truly be the golden age of America.
Join Susan Bonner and Pia Chattopadhyay for a CBC News Radio special covering the swearing-in of the 47th President of the United States. Stay with CBC News for extensive coverage. Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern on CBC Radio 1 and the CBC Listen app.
recognize this. A lot of people are going to recognize this. It's the theme from Twin Peaks. David Lynch has died. He's been responsible for so many cult classic films and TV shows, but some say Twin Peaks was his masterpiece. We're going to talk to a Manitoba professor who teaches a class on the American filmmaker. That's coming up on the show after 8. Right now, let's turn our attention to a couple things in the weather. So we do have this blizzard warning, and a lot of things are affected. Go to cbc.ca/Manitoba. There you'll find a list of the 13 school divisions that are either closed or buses not running, most of them entirely shut down. There is some remote learning going on. So check that list at our website this morning, please. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the changing conditions in Winnipeg as the snow's lightly falling and moved in. Almost looks misty out there, foggy with the snow moving. It's not so much the amount of snow we're going to get, it's how it's going to move around and how the winds are going to increase to 90 kilometers per hour this afternoon. Through the day. Right now in Winnipeg, it is -2, and we do have that light snow and blowing snow. This afternoon, our temperature with wind chill could feel like -31, so it's really cold on the back end of this. So beyond the warnings and conditions for the weather itself, I want to talk about how they're affecting highways and traffic. We have heard about cars in the ditch and lots of problems. I can also tell you, Corey was just checking the highways map. There's many highways that are closed. Check 511, please. Consider not traveling if you don't have to. If you live in Dauphin, Russell, Roblin, or Neepawa, all the highways around you are closed, for example. So you can call Corey at 788-3093 with any updates. Amanda just called within the city. She called with an issue. Northbound Colony at Ellis, a bus blocking the 2 right lanes, and it looks like it may have slipped off the road and hit a pole. So not clear what happened there, but northbound Colony at Ellis, you may want to avoid the area till that's cleared. It is right now 9 minutes to 8 o'clock. Well, when the Sutherland Hotel on Main Street went up in flames earlier this week and ultimately the demolition started, some saw it as another empty building destroyed by fire. But for my next guest, it was more than that. The hotel that was built in 1882 was first named the Cosmopolitan Hotel. In 1907, it was renamed the Sutherland, and Brad Belinke's parents owned the Sutherland Hotel for about 11 years. He's on the line this morning to talk about what it was like growing up there and how he feels now that it's gone. Good morning, Brad.
Good morning. How are you, Marcy?
I'm well. So tell me a little bit. You had a FaceTime call with your family when you found out about the fire. What was it like?
Yeah, my niece actually went down to the site while it was still active around 7 o'clock the night before. And so my brothers and I were on that. And it's bittersweet. It's heartbreaking. You know, my formative years there were, from 10 to about 18, and I just remember the place in its glory days. Right, it was a wonderful place. We had a lot of regulars who stopped in the establishment, and it was just a very family place in a lot of respects.
So paint us a picture of this. So your mom and dad bought it in the late 70s, I understand. Yep. And so it was the kind of place, I understand, that offered a straight razor shave, right?
Yeah, there was an active barbershop right in the entranceway. Then there was the vendor. There was a restaurant next that was attached with it. And you probably got the best Greek burger you could have on the strip anywhere. And then
why was that? There was a restaurant in there owned by a family that
a Greek family that owned it. Yeah, well, we owned the restaurant, but they managed it.
Cool.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And like Fridays and Saturday nights, they would have polka bands on there. So you had Mike Domish, who's from a lot of the old timers would remember the Mike Domish band. So the place was packed. Right to the point that on a Saturday night, my mom worked the front door. She had the velvet rope, the whole bit, which sounds crazy when you think about where things are at this point in that area. But it was really quite something. We really, quite honestly, we never had the problems that a lot of these Main Street bars face right now. We never had security. We never had bouncers, that kind of thing. A lot of the locals were regulars. They just were working class heroes who stopped in, had a beer or two, and just wanted a nice quiet place to have a chill before they went home.
You remember, I understand, making friendships with people along the way, and I know you've also said that you always, people were always welcome to come and go, and it was, if police would stop in, and like very, very community on the ground.
Very much community on the ground. Like a lot of, I think there was a bit of a pushback for a police presence in any building on Main Street back in those days, right? But they were welcome. We wanted them there. So they would stop in for their breakfast or their lunch. We developed just so many long-term friendships as a result of that.
I heard you. I got to interject because I heard you describe this to one of our producers who was talking to you and booking you for the show. It was kind of like Cheers.
And very much so, and very, very much so. My dad was a grumpy old kind of guy, so he probably would have been the old guy, and my brother would have been the dashing Ted Danson.
Obviously, you watched this, go up in flames. How did you find out the Sutherland was burning?
Friends contacted us immediately, just letting us know what was going on, and so I went on the news cycle right away, and I was just shocked to see the amount of flames and everything like that. And I knew that this was probably the end for the building because it was all brick and wood in there. There was, I know there was apparently someone looking into purchasing it to revitalize it. But really, that old building, it would have been very difficult to really revitalize it properly. So I think that, it's bittersweet. I'm very sad to see it go because driving by, you have those memories of mom and dad, my brother working behind the bar, those kind of things are gone, right? But on the other end of the coin, I'm very excited and optimistic for that Point Douglas area. I think that whoever goes in and develops that area, that area needs a facelift and they need a positive community moving forward. And I think those hotels have seen their day. You know what I mean?
Just last, paint us a picture of what it physically looked like in there. Like I don't know why I'm imagining red carpet, but like, what was it? Colorful? Was it? You know what I mean? Like, what did it look like? How big were the rooms and all that stuff?
Well, I'm going to get in trouble here because I think it was red carpet, but I don't know. It's been so long, 30 odd years or more. You'd enter. There was a little room that had the barber shop where, again, like they did straight razors and haircuts. To the left was the restaurant itself. The bar itself had a stage where, again, country bands would play. And upstairs we didn't have tenants that were renting by the day. It was mostly month to month. And we had really good tenants even back then, right? So there was one fellow I mentioned to your producer. His name's Bill. He was a dynamiter who would go up north, blast holes in the mines, and then come back. But he had no wife, no kids, no family whatsoever. So we really, mom and dad and my brother, became his extended family. And so much so, and he got paid very well as well. So at one time I came back and he goes, "It's very cold." Well, very much like we were dealing with today. And he goes, "Come on, we're going to go shopping." And so he took my mom and my sister-in-law and bought them fur coats at the first store.
I love all those stories from back in the day. Thank you so much for outlining it and also talking about your hopes for Main Street going forward, Bill. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your time.
That is Bill Belinkie. His parents owned the Sutherland for about 11 years. By the way, go to our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba. There's a whole bunch of different stories about the Sutherland. There's archival material. There's an item from 93. Pardon me, Brad Belinkie. I believe I said the wrong name there for some reason. But you can find that, the article I was mentioning from 93, on our YouTube page. That was pulled of the articles. It was all about, actually, the last hotel barber at the Sutherland. So it's worth a look for sure. Right now, let's go to Heather for headlines.
Well, we've been talking about that blizzard warning for much of southern Manitoba. It's already now being felt in the city of Winnipeg. Hang on, because that wind is blustery and it's creating snow and blowing snow inside the city and treacherous conditions outside the city. This warning covers Winnipeg, the Red River and Pembina Valleys, the Interlake, and east of the Manitoba Escarpment. Wind is going to gust at times today to 90 kilometers an hour, and the blizzard will start to taper off late this afternoon afternoon or this evening. So hang on throughout the day. Manitoba has taken in an 11-year-old Palestinian boy who needs life-changing medical care. The boy and his mother arrived in Winnipeg yesterday. They were met at the airport by Premier Wab Kinew, and the province hopes to bring in a second child from Gaza who also needs urgent medical care. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 8:30.
Thanks, Heather.
You're welcome.
Let's just school closures online. The latest one is Red River Valley Division, which is closed today. Staff are expected to work from home there. Around Dauphin, Russell, Roblin, Neepawa, all your highways surrounding are pretty much closed. Check 511 before you go out to see what is closed and what the conditions are like. Getting pretty bad out there, folks. So that blizzard warning continues. Stay with us.
Today on Q with Tom Power. Pamela Anderson has been in the public eye for decades. In her memoir and documentary a couple of years back, Pamela finally took control of her own story. Now she's entering a new chapter as an artist, playing the lead in the new film, The Last Showgirl. Pamela will tell you what that means to her.
You guys, our show is legendary.
That's coming up on Q, followed by Commotion with Elamine Abdel Mahmoud on CBC Radio 1, the CBC Listen app, and everywhere you get your podcasts. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current with Matt Galloway.
Fries with gravy and cheese curds, football with 3 downs, Neil Young and Rick James in a band together. John Batt looks at nostalgic moments in Canadian history for surprising stories that unite us. He's coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcott. A ceasefire in the Middle East is one step closer to becoming reality. Just this hour, the Israeli Security Cabinet approved the deal with Hamas. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says it is recommending the Knesset does the same. The CBC's Chris Brown has more.
I'm outside Israel's cabinet offices in Jerusalem, where the country's security cabinet has just approved the ceasefire deal hammered out the other day in Qatar. Where I am has become a vigil for supporters of the hostages. You can see their pictures, as well as lots of Israeli flags, all of it put up over 460 days ago. What comes next is that the full cabinet will take a vote, likely a formality, removing the final hurdle for releasing hostages and Palestinian detainees beginning on Sunday. Overnight, the Prime Minister's office released a statement saying the text of the deal had been agreed to, and that came after a difficult day of last-minute glitches that Israel blamed on Hamas. But internal politics have also been a big factor in this. Far-right Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir said that he will quit the government unless Israel continues to attack Gaza. But another far-right minister appears to be staying, which may hold Netanyahu's governing coalition together, at least for now. Earlier, we saw a list of 33 hostages that are going to be released over the next few weeks. We don't know how many people on that list are still alive, but it does include the youngest captive, a mother and her 5-year-old son, as well as her baby, who was just 9 months old when Hamas attacked on October the 7th. We're also expecting to see a list of Palestinian names released. More than 11,000 Palestinians are in Israeli jails, some for violent crimes, but many others are in jail without ever having been convicted of anything. Chris Brown, CBC News, Jerusalem.
U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, meanwhile, is urging the two sides to implement the deal quickly.
Frankly, it better be done before I take the oath of office. You know, we shook hands and we signed certain documents, but it better be done.
Trump was speaking in a podcast interview, once again taking credit for the deal, saying negotiations would not have succeeded without pressure from his team. Washington, meanwhile, is bustling with preparations. In just 3 days, Trump will be sworn in as U.S. president for the second time. The CBC's Chris Reyes is following all of this. Chris, give us a preview of the day.
So, John, hundreds of thousands of people are expected to be there on Monday, both in support and some protesting against the president-elect. Donald Trump will be sworn in sometime around noon by Chief Justice John Roberts. Singer-songwriter Carrie Underwood will be performing. The outgoing administration will be there, President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. Now, worth noting, John, that Trump did not attend Biden's inauguration in 2020. Presidents George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, and Barack Obama will be in attendance. But beyond that, the guest list is quite varied, and it includes tech CEOs Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, and the head of TikTok. And then a real notable absence. Former First Lady Michelle Obama will not attend. She issued a statement this week, gave no reason for declining the invitation. And of course, the key event on Inauguration Day is the presidential address. Trump's team has said he will be focused on delivering a message of unity.
Chris, Trump is expected to hit the ground running by signing a record number of executive orders. What should we expect?
So Trump made a lot of day one promises during his campaign, John, including mass deportation, tariffs against Canada and Mexico, and undoing environmental regulations put in place by the Biden administration. Also possibly issuing pardons for those jailed for storming the Capitol on January 6. Now, Trump could sign as many as 100 executive orders on Inauguration Day. That would be, as you said, a record number. Just for context, Biden signed 17 on his first day. Now, an executive order would take effect immediately, but enforcement could take some time. Some in Trump's circle, John, have described this as a shock and awe plan from a president who is determined with this final term to make good on some of his biggest, boldest, and most controversial campaign promises.
CBC's Chris Reyes in New York. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
And you can tune into CBC Radio 1 for live coverage of the inauguration on Monday. Join Susan Bonner and Pia Chetapedai for the swearing in of the 47th President of the United States. It all starts at 11 a.m. Eastern. You can also stream it live on CBC Listen and the CBC News app. Here in this country, our colleagues at Radio Canada have learned more details about how the Trudeau government is planning to respond to the tariffs Trump may impose. Within 15 to 30 days, Canada could unleash a round of counter tariffs worth $37 billion. They'll be designed to do as little harm to the Canadian economy as possible. But if it's necessary to ramp up the response, Ottawa could increase more counter tariffs worth as much as $110 billion. Let's bring in Janice McGregor from our Parliamentary Bureau. Janice, former Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland has just confirmed on social media that she will officially launch her leadership bid on Sunday. How is this tariff threat affecting that contest, and for that matter, the opposition's positioning for the next federal election?
Well, as an example, Mark Carney, now campaigning for the Liberal leadership race, made a stop in Richmond, BC last night. Confronting this threat from U.S. President Donald Trump is now part of his pitch.
We face a serious threat from the 47th President of the United States, and it's true, it is a very serious economic threat. We can't control what Donald Trump will do. We can control what we will do.
And looking even farther ahead to the next election, we saw pivoting from Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre yesterday, too. As it becomes more clear that the next Liberal leader, whoever that is, isn't likely to stick with the current carbon tax, we see now from the Conservatives their pitch broadening to being about axing taxes more generally to ease the burden on Canadians. And although Poilievre's made some cautious remarks in interviews agreeing that retaliation might be needed in a limited form, his Canada First messaging yesterday did not have the same fiery commitment to fighting back with counter tariffs that we've seen from others. Tariffs, after all, are a form of taxes. Governments don't pay them, businesses and consumers do, and that's why people worry about inflation.
Janice McGregor in Ottawa. Thanks, Janice.
You're welcome.
Overseas, former Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan is facing another jail term for corruption. He was sentenced to an additional 14 years today. His wife was sentenced to 7 years. The couple is accused of accepting gifts in exchange for laundered money when Khan was in power. Khan has been in jail since 2023 for other corruption convictions. He has long denied guilt, calling the accusations politically motivated. Lawyers for the late Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny are behind bars this morning. The three men stand in the defendant's cage listening as the judge reads her verdict during the closed-door trial. They were found guilty of belonging to an extremist group. Their sentences range between 3.5 to 5.5 years. Navalny was a fierce critic of President Vladimir Putin. He died suddenly in an Arctic penal colony a year ago. And finally, in Los Angeles, officials are reporting significant progress in containing 2 major fires. Strong winds have died down, giving firefighters a chance to beat back the flames. Thousands, though, are anxiously waiting to return to the homes that still stand. As Mike Crawley reports, they will need to contend with a new set of health concerns.
Wearing full-body protective gear, members of a cleaning crew work on a house in Pasadena.
A lot of people calling for the same thing. Over 20 jobs right now.
The huge scale of the Los Angeles fires means neighborhoods that were not directly damaged are seeing the effects.
Big, white, chunky pieces of ash.
Kate Gammon lives in Santa Monica. Her street was not under an evacuation order, but she and her family left home for 4 days as a precaution.
There's a rain of ash every day. It's not just wood, it's the metals and the plastics and the oils in people's homes.
Experts say urban wildfires that destroy buildings produce a wider range of toxins than forest fires. Colleen Reed, a professor at the University of Colorado, studied the health after effects of a fire that destroyed 1,000 buildings in Boulder 3 years ago.
Headache, dry cough, itchy, watery eyes.
Her research found that half the people who lived nearby were still experiencing symptoms 6 months later.
People who lived closer to more burned structures were more likely to report headaches and a strange taste in their mouth.
Reed says returnees in LA should wear masks indoors, open all their windows to let out noxious gases, and clean everything.
Those gases will come through from the smoke, so they'll absorb into carpets and rugs and sofas, but also drywall is porous.
LA fire officials say they are working to ensure that homes will be safe to return to once the evacuation orders are lifted. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. Remember, you can listen to us live every morning on the CBC News app. Just tap on the local icon. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
As I've been saying, it is not really a good morning, Manitoba, and that is just because our weather is causing a lot of challenge. So I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thank you for being with us on CBC's Information Radio. You're on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and on YouTube this morning. So we have a whole bunch of things to tell you about. Riley Lechuk, weather specialist, is here to walk us through the blizzard conditions and what's happening. Corey Funk will be in to talk about highway closures and what's going on. Heather Wells in our news center just handed me information about buses that are being turned around. Now, to be clear here, this is buses that may already have students on them, but they ventured out and they're now turning back. So this will be important information. This is at the Seine River School Division. So this is in around St. Anne. Students there will be dropped at their school or the nearest school, and I will repeat this and clarify this in a moment here. Transportation is happening to contact parents, right now. So stay with us. Okay, let me read this because I was distracted there for a moment because it just came in. So let me just read this. Seine River School Division has said that schools will be closed today. So students currently on the bus, as I was trying to articulate there, will either be dropped at the school, depending on where the bus is right now, or at the nearest school. And then there will be work done to contact parents to make sure that you know where your kids are and how to pick them up. So right now, all of that is ongoing. This is very much just developing. This is the Seine River School Division. Now, this is because kids already were on the bus. In a lot of places in Manitoba, if people would venture out and then realize how quickly those winds can change your visibility or road conditions, and they're turning around. So this just happened with the school buses. I will say also on our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba, you'll find a list of some 13 plus divisions that are not having school today in Manitoba. That's because we have a very serious weather system. So Heather's here first with headlines, and then Riley will explain what's going on in the forecast. Heather, what's your update?
Yeah, and that wind is really whipping up out there, so do be careful, as we've been saying, and Riley will reiterate, this blizzard blanketing much of southern Manitoba, and you feel it right now when you step outside here in Winnipeg. Manitoba has taken in an 11-year-old Palestinian boy who needs life-changing medical care. The boy and his mother arrived in Winnipeg yesterday. Doctors Without Borders and federal officials got the pair out of Egypt after they fled Gaza, and the province hopes to bring in a second child from Gaza who also needs urgent medical care. Some people in Point Douglas say the province hasn't explained how they will be protected from a supervised drug consumption site. The province held a meeting yesterday. We'll hear what one person in the neighborhood took from that meeting in our next local news at 8:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
I know Heather in our news department, very busy. So weather specialist Riley Lechuk is in, and we're going to talk. I've never heard of that happening with the kids in the buses. So,
I have not either.
Yeah. Good for them, though, for, obviously making what was the safest choice, which is to get the kids somewhere safe. So conditions are changing very quickly. Where are we at right now? And walk us through this.
Okay, so I'll start with the wind because this is going to play a major factor in how the day develops here in Manitoba. Not so much the snow here in the south. Yes, we have seen some snow falling in Winnipeg and across the south, but it's going to be a story about the wind today. So right now, just looking at sustained winds at about 50 kilometers an hour at the airport, gusting to 60. But head outside the city, not even far outside the city. Portage la Prairie, for example, looking at sustained winds at 72, gusting to 83 right now. And these are the types of gusts that we can expect to continue through the day. And this is what will really whip up what in some cases is not a lot of fresh snow, maybe a centimeter or two, and really toss it around and really create some very treacherous driving conditions, particularly out on the open highways. We've been hearing about those closures across parts of southern Manitoba, some really treacherous conditions on Highway 7, 8, 9, 6 on the Trans-Canada through the day. So keep that in mind if you have any travel plans that we will expect through the day today, some very significantly reduced visibilities and quite suddenly in some cases. So keep that in mind. Temperatures have started to fall here in the Red River Valley. We're down to -4 in Winnipeg right now, -9s and -10s into the Parkland region. And as that cold front starts to sweep through, that's what's going to usher in some of these very, very strong northwesterly winds. -26 in Lynn Lake, for example, to Dooley Lake at -32. So air like that making its way south as we get through the day. The snow is continuing as we get through the morning here. We will start to see that clearing out as we get through the next few hours here in Winnipeg, but that blizzard warning persisting. We are looking at gusts up to 90 kilometers an hour, maybe stronger in the Red River Valley throughout the day today, blowing snow advisories into the west. This does start to calm down once we get into the evening, into the overnight period tonight, and then a much colder day on the way for tomorrow.
All right. Thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
He'll be the busiest guy at CBC today. Riley Lachuk, CBC's weather specialist. So just to repeat before we turn to Corey, that all students who are currently on the bus in the Seine River School Division around St. Anne will be dropped at the school or the nearest school. And then transportation in the division is going to contact parents. They're working to contact parents to make sure you know where your kids are and how to pick them up, as the Seine River School Division is going to be closed today. So this is just a situation where kids got caught in the bus. So we'll follow up on that story. Our news department, thank you for alerting us here. Corey, I know you've been looking at lists specifically of highways that are closed.
And they're changing by the minute. Just within the last few minutes here, Highway 1 from the perimeter to Carberry is now closed, as well as Highway from Elm Creek to Glenboro as well. That's Highway 242. And so lots going on there. But right now, just to kind of sum things up in terms of highway closures, if you live in Russell, Roblin, Dauphin, or Neepawa, all the highways immediately around your community are closed right now. That's how things are going, and they are changing by the minute. So you want to go to Manitoba 511 if you do plan to hit the highways, which honestly, safety-wise, you probably shouldn't this morning. So just to give another just short update here, also in northern Manitoba, highways 10 and 60 from the PA to Highway 6 completely closed right now. There are cars stuck along the way. Also, Highway 5 from the Saskatchewan border in Roblin through Dauphin to the Narrows, Highway 20 from Dauphin to Fork River, Highway 10 from Asheville to Ethelbert, Highway 10 through Riding Mountain, Highway 50 from McCreary to Silver Ridge, Highway 83 from Russell to St. Clara, Highway 45 from the Saskatchewan border through Russell to Rosburn, and Highway 5 from Brookdale to Eden. All closed, and that, as I say, that is changing moment by moment here. Like around Neepawa, Highway 16 from Minnedosa to Highway 1 also closed now too. So check those conditions, or just don't head out at all. Very treacherous out there. Starting to get more treacherous here in the city, as well as I'm hearing about poor conditions around the airport from Allison. Just poor visibility overall. If you see anything else, though, 204-788-3093.
So you're listening to the theme from Twin Peaks. Do you recognize it? David Lynch, at the age of 78, died yesterday due to ongoing battles with emphysema. He was the director behind cult classics like Blue Velvet and Twin Peaks. On Facebook, Lynch's family posted, quote, "There's a big hole in the world now that he's no longer with us. But as he would say, keep your eye on the donut and not on the hole." Kind of a nice quote. George Tolles is a local distinguished professor at the University of Manitoba. He taught a director's course which included a whole unit focusing on David Lynch. Good morning.
Good morning.
Tell me a little bit about what you're thinking about when you think about his iconic films, things like Blue Velvet and, of course, the series Twin Peaks, the TV series.
Well, I'm having a bit of an echo in my voice. Is there a way of adjusting that? I'm hearing. Is there a way of getting rid of the echo of my voice?
I'm not sure. Abby, is there a reason? We're just asking for. Is it? Yeah, you know what? George, we're gonna call you back because I'm not sure that there's a reason for that. Right. So apologies. So we're going to try to get that sorted. And actually, next we're going to take you to something that's coming up on Radio Noon today. We have a little bit of a preview of a story that we're going to have for you. So as Canada continues to beef up its border security to satisfy the incoming U.S. administration, CBC's Karen Paul spent the day at the Manitoba-U.S. border at Emerson yesterday. This weekend also marks 3 years since the Patel family tragically died. They froze in a field, as you will likely recall, while crossing into Manitoba, attempting the crossing from the United States. Now, one of the people that Karen spoke to was Chris Brown, the program manager for police dog services with Manitoba RCMP. He told her about a particular call that he got this past fall.
So on the night in question, it was late November, I was at home and I was on call. And I received a request for service from IBET, which is our integrated border enforcement team. And what I learned during the phone call, it was a very brief phone call because time is of the essence with these things. I learned that there had been 5 illegal migrants spotted crossing the border, and they were now in Canada, and the IBET members and the Morris Detachment members had located them, and upon challenging them to go into police custody, they ran away. And the first thing I did was say I would go, of course. And the second thing I did was check my phone to check the temperature in this area, because the temperature varies from area to area in Manitoba. And I saw that it was minus 21 and minus 30 with the wind chill. And I instantly had a nightmare about 2022. So I got dressed as quickly as I could. I got my dog prepped. I got my gear prepped. I dressed with layers. We're trained for this. We know how to do this. I've been doing this a long time. The wrinkles come honestly. And I hightailed it as fast as I could from my house down here. And when I got here in an hour and 5 minutes from my house north of Winnipeg. And I was briefed by the IBET member who did a phenomenal job at scene. She was phenomenal and instrumental in containing the area. And the area that I was required to search is right behind you. It's this stand of brush right here. So according to the members, they were able to contain the scene very quickly, which keeps those people that we're looking for in one spot. I checked my gear one more time, made sure the dog was set up and we were good to go. And we went to the last known point where she saw them entering the bush line. And from there, we quickly located 4 subjects. And 1 had surrendered prior to my arrival, so that was the 5. So when we were finished at about 11 o'clock, so I arrived here at 10 o'clock, just after 10. By 11 o'clock, we had all 5 in custody. The last person that we interviewed, the last migrant that we interviewed, he spoke better English than the first 4, and he said that there was a 6th. And panic really set in by this time.
Chris Brown, Program Manager for Police Dog Services with the Manitoba RCMP. He was speaking with CBC's Karen Pauls. She visited the Emerson border yesterday. Now, obviously, we've left you there at a critical point in that story. And if you want to hear the rest of that story and more of the coverage of the interviews that Karen gathered at the border yesterday, please tune in to Radio Noon today, right here on CBC Radio 189.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and on YouTube. Well, it is 8:22 a.m. and we return to trying to see if we've got a better line connection here with George Tolles, who's a local distinguished professor at University of Manitoba, here to remember David Lynch. George taught a director's course, which included a unit focusing on David Lynch, who passed away yesterday at the age of 78. Hello again, George.
Hello. The first thing I wanted to say about Lynch, other than the words coffee, cherry pie, and donuts, which floated through my head the moment I heard he'd gone. I mean, it's so associated with Twin Peaks. But it reminded me that though Lynch has had an immense influence on film, I would say that his greatest lasting contribution has been to the landscape of television. I would contend that every weird show that has come on TV since the early 90s owes something to Twin Peaks. I think it broke the mold in ways that no other show dramatically has equaled. And strange as Twin Peaks was in the early 90s, it was an unexpected hit. It was a show that everyone was talking about. But the idea of combining a police investigation in a small town with all of these surreal, strange elements, and a director who could seemingly do anything dreamlike that he wanted to do within a story that seemed to be structured in a different way. It just suddenly woke television creators up to all of the unexplored possibilities. Another thing that needs to be said, I think Lynch was one of the first directors, and I'm thinking of his film style as much as TV, to realize and explore just how completely weird and frightening suburbia is.
I love how you framed all of that, because I still will watch some David Lynch like Blue Velvet, and then you go, what? And then right when you think you might have figured something out, it goes somewhere else, and yet you're still riveted.
Right. Right.
I want to play you a clip of an interview that Lynch gave about filmmaking. Here it is.
Sure.
You know, they call it a film business, but money is the last thing a person should be thinking about in my book. The last thing. You fall in love with ideas, and you get fired up, and you go and you try to translate those ideas into cinema. And it's a beautiful, beautiful journey. And so it has nothing to do with any kind of career. It has to do with the loving of doing.
Do you think, George, that attitude helped free his creativity, and that's what led to, as you put it, so much awesome and weird work?
Well, yes. I mean, I think even if there are directors whose work means more to me than David Lynch, I would say as an artist, there's nobody I'd put ahead of him in terms of, I mean, that voice you just heard, what an instantly beguiling, enchanting voice. It's just so pure, it's so direct, it's so completely unbound up with expectations of what a commercially minded or sensible or business-driven relation to art is. Yes, he remained a child, I think, in all of the best ways. Someone once said that as adults, we never keep all the things that we had as children inside us. I think David Lynch is an exception. He managed to do that. And that, I mean, I hear his voice and I think, man, he may be the best storyteller, no matter as a speaker, that any director has ever been. He also had an interesting statement about what movies are that we might want to throw in here. He said, well, film is really voyeurism. You sit there in the safety of the theater, and seeing is such a powerful thing. And we want to see secret things. We really want to see them, new things. It drives you nuts, you know. And the more new and secret they are, the more we want to see them. Well, I mean, just those few sentences, I read them and I want to see a David Lynch experience immediately.
Well said, as always, George. Thank you very much for being with us this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Right, take care.
George Tolles is a distinguished professor at the University of Manitoba. He taught a director's course that had an entire unit focused on David Lynch. David Lynch died yesterday at the age of 78 due to his ongoing battle with emphysema.
The cold of winter melted by an array of floral artistry to warm your soul. Fleur de Ville Artiste comes to the Leaf at Assiniboine Park January 16th to 26th. Be dazzled by figurines decorated in flowery fashions, designed by Manitoba's vibrant art scene and blossoming floral talent. Fleur de Ville Artiste, proudly sponsored by CBC. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for more.
Well, you're going to want to visit that after you get through today in our wintry, blustery weather. Hopefully, you're staying safe and warm, and you've heeded all the, the precautionary warnings. Just stay off the roadways if you can, and avoid travel, especially in some of the most affected areas. Now, that's also because a lot of the highways now are closing. This changed dramatically from when we got on air from 6 o'clock this morning to now. In the city of Winnipeg, the winds are picking up. You can see that it's really getting a dusting of that white snow out there. It's not the amount of snow that's going to come down, remember. It's the winds gusting to 90 km throughout today before this blizzard warning and this blizzard calms down. We also know that in parts of Manitoba, people are turning around because of zero visibility, and we have highways closed. So the highway closures are this. Right now, from the west perimeter to Carberry, that's closed. Roblin, Russell, McCurry, Dauphin, Neepawa, highways all around that area are closed. You can check Manitoba 511 before you're heading out if you want to see the full list. And a lot of the map is red with closures this morning. We also can share that there's a number of school divisions that are closed or buses canceled. You likely know this already. And the big one that we want to mention one more time here is that all students in the Seine River School Division who are on buses or currently on the bus will be dropped at the school or the nearest school. Transportation will work to contact parents, and already that's happening, to make sure they know where to pick up the kids, because Seine River School Division is closed. But of course, some of the kids got caught on the bus before that call was made. And so we are going to obviously follow this story through our news department through the day, and hopefully everything all is well. But it's just a challenging day overall out there, to say the least, with these blizzard warnings and conditions. This should all calm down by later today. And then on the back of this, we have some very cold weather. Right now in Winnipeg, our temperature is -4. Just want to say thank you to the people who work on our program, and I'll do the full list of folks that work on all of our programs and current affairs at CBC. They are Corey Funk, Abby Adiyemi, Kalkadamu Legata, Sierra Sanders, Chidi Akuma, May McKillop, Marshall Hodgins, Dylan Longhurst, Shanley Vidal, and Jim Agapito are our current affairs reporters in unit, as well our YouTube producer, Kevin Nipatebo, Nellie Gonzalez, show's producer in the unit, Leif Larson, senior producer of audio at CBC Manitoba. Wendy Parker is also one of our producers in unit. Thank you to everybody who worked so hard, and obviously to our news department. Let's go there next and get the latest from Heather Walls.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 8:30. We've got blowing snow. It's -4. That wind right now, northwest gusting to 61, and it is here. A blizzard now bearing down on Winnipeg. A blizzard warning stretches from the Red River and Pembina Valleys, Interlake, and the east side of the escarpment, but it's already blanketed Riding Mountain and up north to the Paw. Dan Fulton, meteorologist at Environment and Climate Change Canada, says the overnight temperature of 2 has been steadily dropping, and the wind is picking up. Fulton says in the next couple of hours, expect the wind to gust to 90 kilometers an hour around Winnipeg and in the Red River Valley.
The perimeter, the open countryside, it'll be really bad. I expect there'll be road closures and things later on as the system kicks in. In the city itself, I won't say it's going to be good, but it won't be as bad as kind of in the exposed areas all around Winnipeg.
And in fact, a long list of roads and highways are already shut down, as well as many schools have closed for the day, buses not running. We've got that complete list up on our website this morning. Fulton expects this system will move out of the Winnipeg area late this afternoon or early this evening. And after that, the temperature, as Marcy mentioned, is going to plummet into the mid-20s with wind chills that will feel like the low -30s for the weekend. Bundle up and brace yourself if you're heading outside. An 11-year-old Palestinian boy will receive life-changing medical care in Manitoba. The boy and his mother arrived in Winnipeg yesterday. Doctors Without Borders and federal officials got the pair out of Egypt after they fled Gaza. Dr. Melanie Morris at Children's Hospital has volunteered her time and medical expertise to treat the child's genetic condition.
I will ensure that they receive the medical care that they need to heal and move forward. The unimaginable
challenges this child and their family have faced, the loss, the fear, the uncertainty, are difficult for me to comprehend.
The province will provide long-term health care. The local Muslim community is covering housing and food costs. And the province hopes to bring in a second child from Gaza who also needs urgent medical care. An employee at a Manitoba pilot training school suffered serious injuries after being hit by a propeller earlier this month. It happened while a student of Harv's Air Service in St. Andrews Airport was trying to start an airplane engine. The engine sputtered and quit. Then an employee stepped in to help by hand rotating the propeller, but the employee was struck by that propeller. The Transportation Safety Board is investigating. Harv's Air President Adam Penner says the employee is now home from the hospital and doing well. He says the company is fully cooperating with the safety investigation. Some people in Point Douglas say the province said nothing at a meeting yesterday to allay their fears about a supervised drug consumption site. The province plans to open the site at 200 Disraeli. Sheila Page is on board of the Montessori nursery and kindergarten nearby. She says the plan only provides security in a small area around the injection site.
People will be coming out intoxicated and leaving that no-go zone and coming into the community. And we have 2.5 to 6-year-old children who play in the playground, go for walks in the neighborhood.
Page says she is concerned neither Winnipeg Police nor the Community Safety Patrol were at the meeting to explain what supports they might offer the neighborhood. Our colleagues at Radio Canada have learned more details about how the Trudeau government is planning to respond to the tariffs incoming President-elect Donald Trump may impose. Within 15 to 30 days, Canada could unleash a round of counter tariffs worth $37 billion. They will be designed to do as little harm to the Canadian economy as possible, but if it's necessary, to ramp up its response. Ottawa could impose more counter tariffs worth as much as $110 billion. Meanwhile, former finance minister, Chrystia Freeland, has confirmed on social media she will officially launch her leadership bid on Sunday. Yesterday, Mark Carney launched his bid to become the next Liberal leader alongside supporters in Edmonton. And award-winning British stage actor Joan Plowright, the widow of Laurence Olivier, has died. She was 95. Her family says Plowright died yesterday at a retirement home for actors in South England, surrounded by loved ones. Over 70 years, she enjoyed a career in theatre, film, and TV until blindness made her retire. You can find more news updated throughout the day and the latest on the weather conditions, the blizzard that has moved in. Just head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Thank you to our news department. Heather Wells, Aaron Broman, Riley Lachuk, Megan Ketchison. Thank you so much for a busy morning here. In addition, in our unit, want to thank hosts Nadia Kidwai and Faith Wendell for their work this week, and also additional associate producers whose names that I neglected to mention, Issa Kickson, Chloe Friesen, and Bruce Layden, in addition to our hardworking unit. It's been busy. All right, so we're here for you and to keep you safe. So why don't we go to Corey with a last look at what's happening on the roadways?
Highway 1 from the West Perimeter to Carberry is completely closed right now due to poor conditions. And also, heads up, if you live in the Pa, Russell, Roblin, Dauphin, Nipawin, McCreary, the highways immediately around you are all closed right now. So very bad conditions across the province, poor visibility as well, eastern parts of the province as well, including Winnipeg. So stay safe out there.
Radio Noon's wondering if you're stuck home and you want to call. How did the weather affect you in Manitoba today? Or maybe you're not stuck at home. Maybe you're responding. Maybe you're out there. Maybe who knows what you're doing. So how were you affected by this blizzard in Manitoba? Today, 788-3797. Leave him a message to get in on the show. 788-3797. Abby Adeyemi, why don't you take it away?
Something that will be coming on the tail side of that system will be the wind chill of -30 down south, and it will be feeling like -50 in the northern part of the province. So take care out there.
Yeah, good reminders, right? All right. What a place we live in. It was slushy a couple of days ago. Thank you very much, Abby. And thank you all for listening this morning to Information Radio. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. We'll talk to you again on Monday.